is Jonathan, and welcome to part 1 of an extended version of the 6-part series I did on Aardman Animation's Wallace and Gromit with my cousin Sarah, Nicki from Trivial Theater, and Dan from TYTD Reviews. Today's episode started as 4 episodes of iHeart Animation last year. We started recording this series last February, and during the first recording session we spent over 5 hours in one sitting talking about the 4 Wallace and Gromit specials, and then fully ran out of time to talk about the movies. All of the content in this episode was previously exclusively available on my Patreon, along with most of the tangents left over from the rest of the time we spent recording. Like I said, we spent over 5 hours talking, so you can look at the runtime of this episode and imagine how much more there is. So in this episode, I have it narrowed down to just the discussions of the 4 television specials and a few semi-relevant tangents from the first recording session, and next time I'll be back to do the same with the movies.
So, Jonathan, when did you first hear about cheese?
It's always been there from the very beginning.
Man from my own heart.
And stuff that could be considered just cheese-like as well as cheese.
Oh, yes. Absolutely. Cheese was my first love, and it shall be my last.
And you're perfect for this podcast.
Well, before we talk about the shorts themselves, I figured I would ask, like, when you first saw this, like, what are your memories of watching Wallace and Gromit? Because for me, I think I was somewhere between 10 and 12. Well, maybe it was when Daphne was here. Sarah would know who that is. So, someone from Canada who stayed with us. It was the child of a friend of our grandparents when they lived in Canada.
Yeah, who was here for a few years in the late 90s, early 2000s.
And she brought a DVD, or maybe it was VHS. It was probably VHS, of Wallace and Gromit. And that's how I first saw it. I'm assuming that's how you first saw it too, Sarah?
I don't even remember, you know?
Yeah, it's probably
and
one of
if
those
you
things that...
And if you were like 10, 11... Well, no. Okay. So
when did she get here?
99, I think.
So I was 13.
And I would have been 7 probably when she came. So, yeah. It's not vivid. I just remember it was nice, but I don't remember. I probably watched it Grandma's.
Probably. But yeah, we watched Wallace and Gromit many times over the years after she introduced it to us.
I want to get nostalgic for a second here because my grandmother had a TV that was like the piece of furniture with like the lattice work and the glass screen that had a little bit of static coming off of it. So
it was one of those giant floor TVs.
Oh, nice.
I'm glad I lived that.
I think it's still out in the shed.
Actually, if you're into like crafting at all, a lot of those old TVs, they'll take the guts out of it and keep the wood part, and they'll turn it into either like a fish tank or like a place for cats to lay.
Wouldn't that be cute if you made it into like its own little puppet show thing? Like if you had the screen, yeah.
I think it's still out in the shed. I think they moved it out there after she upgraded.
Oh man, maybe we need to rescue this and turn it into something really cool. First tangent, not counting the hour before this ish. Okay. Anyway, we probably watched it on that TV.
Probably. What about you, Nicki?
So I did not run into Wallace and Gromit until quite a lot later. Actually, I think it was around 2013-ish. I ran across The Wrong Trousers because they had talked about how Curse of the Were-Rabbit had won the Oscar for Best Animated, or 2014 maybe. And I was taken aback by what I was seeing, so I couldn't find Were-Rabbit, but I did find The Wrong Trousers, and I really enjoyed it.
As you should.
Yeah, but I didn't necessarily seek out more of it until quite a lot later. So my journey has been kind of random. But then I saw Vengeance Most Foul a while back, and it kind of was like, oh, this is so adorable. I have to, seek out the rest of this. And then you brought it up, so it gave me the perfect opportunity to check it out.
Yeah.
So what about you, Dan? I'm sure that you're more familiar than the rest of us.
What's a Wallace and Gromit? No, so for myself, I can't remember a time where I haven't seen Wallace and Gromit at least some point.
I figured.
Over here, it's very much a more seasonal thing. They tend to play Wallace and Gromit at Christmas. It's normally the perfect sort of thing that they sort of slot into the schedules when they've either got a gap in there of like half an hour or 20 minutes and they just need something to put in. And as far as I'm aware, I don't think anybody would ever complain that Wallace and Gromit is on at Christmas. But I think the first memory I have was watching A Close Shave, and then I kind of went back and watched the others. But yeah, it's basically like a yearly tradition over here. We it comes on every Christmas. They play all of them across the BBC, and now they just leave them on iPlayer year round, so you can watch them whenever you want. But
Maybe it's kind of like Charlie Brown here.
yeah, basically, and yeah, it's always been kind of that level of quintessential. It's always been that kind of level of comfortable British watching. So whenever I watch these specials, it always sends me back to a bit of a nostalgic fuzz of usually sat on the sofa in the living room at my parents' house on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, with a bottle of Bucks Fizz and a little party at a jaunty angle, waiting for Christmas dinner to be served. So
That
yeah.
sounds precious. Now, I have a question that's unrelated, but I want to know. How bad are the commercials for you over there? Are you loaded with commercials, or is it like, oh, that was a distracting 2 minutes?
So the BBC is commercial free, so they just play it completely uninterrupted for the full run.
What the heck?
Yeah. And like I say, they're not afraid to just play episodes back to back to back. I have known it be the case that, like, especially on BBC Two or BBC Three, sort of the non-flagship channels, I have known them to just play all three of the specials, A Grand Day Out, The Wrong Trousers and A Close Shave, back to back to back across the entirety of Christmas Day afternoon, just because there's nothing else that's really appealing to anybody. So they'll just shove all three on back to back and let it run.
So when you turn on your TV, you're basically, like regular TV, you're basically ad-free.
On the BBC channels, yeah. So there are 5, we call them terrestrial channels. So there are 5 channels that are kind of considered the basic package, what you'll get if you just plug a TV into the wall and plug an aerial in.
Okay.
BBC One and BBC Two are ad-free. They never play commercials. At most, they'll play public information films, which are like, don't plug things in that have exposed wiring. Don't leave your children with saucepans full of boiling hot water. Stuff like that. And then, or they might do occasional political broadcasts. So occasionally we get like Nigel Farage or Boris Johnson popping his head up to go, "Oh, vote for us," and then it disappears again into the news or whatever. But that's about as far as it goes. Channels 3, 4, and 5, and all of the digital TV stations are adverts, but normally they don't do commercial breaks. And it blew my mind when Triv told this to me. We don't do commercial breaks usually until 15 or 20 minute intervals. So it'll be like you'll get 15, 20 minutes of a program, then an ad break that's 5 minutes, then 15, 20 minutes, then another ad break. And if it's a long program, something that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, it can be breaks every half an hour rather than, regularly. So. And of course, as well, streaming platforms as well. Most of them are ad free, I believe, or like they'll do ads up front and then they just play the whole thing as is uninterrupted. So
Nice. Well, something for me to envy. Okay.
So A Grand Day Out, where it all started, 1989, a animation classic.
And charming.
I would say the cutest of the Wallace and Gromit specials, the one that makes me just go, "Aww," whenever it's on, because I always think of the little gonk droid just sort of zooming about on the moon.
I'd forgotten about how cute that droid was. And that one probably is the one that I've watched the least. So it had been years since I'd seen this when I watched it for the podcast.
I feel like out of the shorts, that's the one I remembered the best, but at the same time, I'd forgotten so much, and I like how homey they made the rocket.
They basically made a living room encased in a metal outer core.
They absolutely did. The level of detail too, just the pictures on the walls and all of it. I mean, down to the little labeled stuff, like brand stuff. It was incredible. Just there was so much love put into this. Like you can feel it.
And what made them charming was there from the beginning. His facial expressions, the knitting, the love of cheese and crackers, just the little cozy British decor. It's just, yeah.
I love the little details as well, like the fact that there's a sled in the basement with the word Rosebud written on it, which is a reference to Citizen Kane. And they seem to reference Citizen Kane a lot, like in later specials. Gromit has a poster on his wall for a parody called Citizen Canine.
I thought about, okay, I've watched a trailer for Citizen Kane, and then I read the synopsis, and I think I watched an analysis, and I'm like, yeah, so I'm probably missing all kinds of references because I avoided the darkness of that movie.
Mm.
Technically, it is an incredibly cool movie, but it's one of those that the reputation, to some extent, is quite a lot bigger than the movie itself, depending
Yeah.
upon the way you come into it. Like there's a lot of movies where you have to be in a certain state of mind to like watch it. And to some extent, I would say that Citizen Kane is that way, just because it does have that reputation, and you have to take it as the fact that it was still a movie made in the 40s. 30s, 40s, 30s.
40
early
sounds
40s.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, it's nice little details stuff. I really like that. As you mentioned, they have like little references to British day-to-day items, things like that. They use duck matches, but there's actually a brand over here that uses the same color scheme and design called Swan,
Oh, nice.
which is just a nice little nod and a reference.
We always liked that the fridge was labeled Smug.
Yes.
That
It's nice, and it kind of marries up that kind of, I want to say, Python-esque quintessential humor, if you know what I'm saying, that kind of absurdity in mundanity stuff with very traditional British sensibilities. Triv mentioned it, especially with the later shorts. There's a real kind of almost wartime-esque vibe to it, for lack of a better explanation. And these shorts all came out at a very transitionary period for the UK as a culture.
Tell us about it.
Yeah, so post-wartime up to the 80s, Britain was very kind of, well, Wallace and Gromit. It was just kind of how it is. You would read the newspaper through the day. You would have maybe a little bit of cheese or a small roast dinner in the afternoon. You worked Monday to Friday, and that was kind of your life. That was how it was. But in the late 80s, going into the 90s, and very much through the 90s, we kind of had the seismic change of a very conservative government going out of power, a very liberal, at the time, left-wing government coming in, sort of the winds of change around what we as a culture wanted to be. And there was a lot more post-ironic self-awareness that kind of traditional, 60s, 70s, 80s British household vibe was maybe a little cheesy and maybe a little cringy. So Wallace and Gromit is kind of almost a awareness piece, a kind of, the way they frame Wallace as a character and the way they frame Wallace and Gromit as characters is very much kind of, it's not trying to say, oh, isn't this life the best life? It's almost kind of like a self-aware parody of British culture between 1950 and 1980.
It's so cozy.
It's kind of acknowledging that there are these traditional values, but then eschewing them a little bit to say, well, they are a little bit rubbish. We should be working for something a bit newer. We should be looking for something a bit better. Because I mean, every invention Wallace comes up with is some convoluted, very over the top way to fix a really simple problem that doesn't need fixing, and that's very much the mentality of Britain at the time. I mean, in later shorts, he invents a porridge gun. You could just make a bowl of porridge. He doesn't have to. But, being a British person growing up through the sort of tail end of the 80s, 90s, 2000s, it means that you pick up on the fact that there's that level of self-awareness to it. And in many ways, they were kind of trendsetters because they introduced a type of self-referential humor that we hadn't really experienced previously. Like I say, Python was probably the closest we had gotten to that personally. We were just coming out of a period of alternative comedy that was very edgy and trying to be very snarky and kind of predominantly was putting across the message of, well, the country's a bit rubbish, isn't it? But Wallace and Gromit kind of still puts some of that messaging across, but in a much more warming and charming way. It kind of says, well, it's a bit rubbish, but that's who we are as British people. Which... You know what? I kind of respect that because, like I say, in the tail end of the 80s, being British was not particularly perceived as the coolest time in the world. It was about 5 or 6 years off the kind of Britpop movement that would sort of reawaken sort of cool Britannia as a movement.
Does that happen? It would be interesting to have a really quick chart put in front of us of like, okay, this is when this culture just felt stupid about itself.
Yeah.
And how long this lasted, and hopefully they're getting over it now. And yeah,
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you wanted a really high level view, I would say that Britain as a country was kind of feeling a bit stupid about itself in the 30s and 40s, and then in the 50s, obviously post-war, things were being built. We were kind of getting a bit of a renewed vigor, and then through the 50s and 60s, it was kind of cool to be British again. You know, the Beatles and all that kind of stuff going on, the Rolling Stones, various other stuff. 70s was the start of a bit of rot setting in, and then by the 80s it wasn't cool to be British anymore, and everything was a bit rubbish, and we didn't have any money, and you know, the Queen and the Prime Minister were having regular smackdowns on WWF Friday Night Raw.
so when you don't have money and your leaders are fighting with themselves, that's a good recipe for not feeling good about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
But then obviously we kind of became a bit self-aware of it, and things like Wallace and Gromit, and there were other TV shows around the time that kind of embraced what we had come from, but put a bit of a polish on it, a bit of a modern spin, sort of reawakened the Cool Britannia movement in the 90s, became quite successful. And now we're kind of in a bit of a rut because we don't really know what we want to be anymore, and we're back to having no money, and everything's just a bit rubbish. So, like, and we've just had like 5 prime ministers who've tried to like eat their own trousers on television, which never looks good on the world stage.
What does that mean?
Well, it was just me making things up, to be completely honest. But we've had 5 very bumbling prime ministers who've kind of come in and just said, "I want to start feeding swans hamburgers," and it's like,
if that's what? Not a phrase, I think it maybe needs to become one. They were trying to eat their own trousers
on live TV.
I think my dad could go for that one if I just come up with the right meaning to go with it. So you give me the definition, and maybe I can start implementing it in everyday life, and then people can be like, "What does that mean?" And oh, I like that.
It's this British phrase. I heard it from an actual British person.
I could have been cruel. I could have said, "Oh yeah, no, everybody over here says that. They ate their own trousers on stage. What more do you want?" It's just a figure of expression for somebody who's a bit stupid, who says some stupid things. I'm not going to turn this into a political podcast, but you could say, in the current climate, the American leader of the free world is eating his trousers on the global stage.
Well, you're saying like putting your foot in your mouth.
Yeah.
Type.
Well, it's
similar.
It's kind of like that. Yeah, acting a fool is probably the best way to kind of describe it. They're just being a bit of a bumbling kind of doing things that you don't want your world leaders doing, sort of thing.
I think it's important whichever side happens to be terribly unhappy at the point, because it just flip-flops.
Yes.
To invest in everyday life and enjoying life instead of, because it's, yeah.
Yeah. So, a fun fact about A Grand Day Out by Wallace and Gromit. So, when A Grand Day Out first came out, Wallace mentions a particular type of cheese called Wensleydale. And one of the things that you should probably know about it is cheese is created from specific cultures of bacteria, and you can't call a cheese a specific type of cheese unless that culture is used. And some places in this country are very secretive and very secure with their cultures. So, for example, you can't call Wensleydale cheese unless it uses the culture that is predominantly being held in Wensleydale, which is a small town in England.
Lovely.
So, the reason why I bring that up is before this short came out, the company that was producing Wensleydale cheese was on the brink of financial ruin and was basically about to go bankrupt, be liquidated, and Wensleydale cheese would cease to exist, basically. After the short, it became one of the most popular cheeses in the country and is still now in one of the most purchased cheeses table list in the country as well.
See, that's a good story.
So Wallace and Gromit saved Wensleydale cheese.
Inadvertently.
Yeah, basically, just purely from this one short film, they saved an entire industry, which I think is quite marvelous.
Yeah, he said the only reason that he said Wensleydale was because he liked the shapes the mouth would make when he animated it. So if he had done that with a different cheese, Wensleydale wouldn't exist.
It's a good word, isn't it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Rolls off the tongue. And Triv didn't know this, and I don't know whether you guys would, but Wensleydale is a bit of an oddity cheese. It's considered a dessert cheese.
I think we got one of those for Christmas. It had white chocolate in it.
Yeah.
Didn't that one have
apricot?
Wasn't that Wensleydale
Was
white
that
chocolate apricot?
Was it?
I think so.
That sounds
We've
about
got
right.
So much cheese.
So it generally is a cheese with a dried fruit in it, so it'll be like dried apricot, dried cranberry. Sometimes you can have spiced apple in there, but it's usually served. It's not served as like a meal in and of itself. It would normally be served in place of, like, say, after dinner mince or something like that. You'd have a meal, and then they'd bring it out as like the equivalent of a cake, basically, and you put it on graham crackers.
We should have done that.
It'd be digestive biscuits over here. But it's a sweet cheese, a dessert cheese. You sort of have it as an accoutrement to a 3-course meal.
But aren't digestive biscuits different than graham crackers?
A little bit. So they taste about the same. Trev very kindly has sent me some graham crackers so I can make s'mores, which just warms my heart. I love s'mores. But graham crackers are I want to say they're a little bit more wheaty. Like digestive biscuits are more sweet, and the sort of wheat floury taste is a little bit less pronounced, whereas graham crackers, they're a little bit more pronounced. Which makes them perfect for s'mores because they're not as sweet as digestive biscuits. So graham crackers really work well. If you try and do s'mores with digestive biscuits, it works, but it becomes a little bit sickly because they put a lot of sugar in digestive biscuits specifically. But yeah, definitely, if you can get your hands on Wensleydale with dried fruit, graham crackers would be what you'd want to go with them, because it just offsets the sweetness a little bit and lets you really fully embrace the flavour of the cheese. But no, I really enjoy the first short. I think the first short is my favourite out of all of them, mainly because I like the sort of cute charmingness of it. Mainly, I think it's a really simple story that does a lot of very good visual storytelling. I think that the dialogue is really more just a nice addition, which is nice. You could turn the sound off on this and just quite happily just watch the film and not fully understand what's going on, really, as well.
Yeah.
Just through the way the visuals sort of convey that. And I like as well that it looks a little rougher than the other specials. Like Wallace has a bit more of an animate face. Gromit has a bit more animation going on. They kind of smoothed that out a little bit in later specials.
Yeah, I hadn't remembered that until watching it for the podcast.
Yeah, all the fingerprints.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, I can't remember what his second name is. Nick Park from Aardman actually did an interview where he said one of the things that his trademark is he likes that roughness. There's a lot of animators who really hate fingerprints, thumbprints on their models, but he says that he feels that gives them that personal touch when you can see the actual artist's hands moving through the animation as things are slowly moving around. Which I agree with him. I think it really does add a bit more heart. You do feel the artist in the work a bit more.
And I know that they smoothed it out more in later ones, but like you can still see fingerprints, and I like that about Wallace and Gromit. I like that it's not perfect.
Yeah,
I remember seeing when I was watching Were-Rabbit with Gromit, there was a continual like fingerprint like right to the side of his nose, and it stood out, but not in a bad way. Like it's like, oh well, hey, there you go. Because I never noticed. I know with Leica, the one, yeah, like their claim to fame is to as much as possible not have fingerprints on it.
I think they 3D print their models, so they're like pretty much perfect.
Fair point, yeah.
We'll get to Were-Rabbit later, but talking about fingerprints, one thing that I noted when I was researching, a lot of things in Were-Rabbit had to be done in the computer because it wouldn't have been possible, like the floating rabbits and stuff. But to make sure everything felt right, they put fingerprints in the computer models.
Oh, that's cool.
So like faint digital fingerprints so that they felt the same.
On which?
In Were-Rabbit, like anytime when they had to use CGI.
Oh, they're like, no, just hide it. It's got to look bespoke.
I mean, I really appreciate that they leave the fingerprints in, but I imagine
Yeah.
Nick Park doesn't sleep very well at night, given that fingerprint recognition is now one of the most common ways to get into people's bank accounts. So,
Oh, yeah.
No. Well, you just gave your plan away.
Mr. Nick Park, I want 200 tons of Wensleydale cheese delivered to my house in the next 3 hours. Otherwise, you will never see your money again. Thank you.
I mean, if he spends it on all the cheese, he won't see it again either.
It's a fair trade. But yeah, no, I really enjoyed this short. It's very simple but effective, and I feel like somehow they managed to make the characters feel so much more animate and alive than even the animation really shows. Like for example, that the fridge gonk droid robot does not have a face, does not have anything, but just purely through the animation of his arm movements and how he kind of wheels around.
I love his arm movements.
Oh yeah. You know so much about him as a character.
Like the scene where he's like imagining himself skiing, and then when the imagination is done, the way his arms drop and the magazine lands on the ground, I love that movement.
No, absolutely. And I really appreciated the fact that when he has that little dream of him skiing, it plays a kind of really cute twee version of the Wallace and Gromit theme.
Yes.
Which was just a really nice touch.
I like that his imagination is visible above his head in like a static TV picture.
And he has to tune his dials to get his dream to focus in.
Really, he's kind of the villain of the picture, but yet nobody gets harmed and everybody gets a happy ending.
Yeah. It's nice. It's just such a gentle, nice... It's the perfect thing to watch on Christmas Day at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon when you've got more turkey in your system than you have actual human flesh. And you've got like half a bottle of champagne gone and you're just like lying on the sofa with one eye open and the other one completely unable to open. It's just a wonderful thing while you wait for the Doctor Who Christmas special to come on at 6. It's just fantastic.
Is there a walk anywhere in there? It sounds like a good time for a walk.
If there is, you'll have to put me in a wheelchair. Like Weekend at Bernie's.
Oh.
I was telling Dan with the robot that I love the fact that his drawer is like all purpose. It pulls, everything and anything you could imagine out of it. And it reminded me a lot of if you've ever seen Futurama, Bender, which is the robot in that, he's got a cabinet in his chest that he opens up and pulls out anything and everything. It's kind of like a magic TARDIS space.
Like a Mary Poppins bag.
Yep, absolutely.
It wouldn't surprise me at all either if Matt Groening got the idea of that from this, because he's a massive Wallace and Gromit fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if Bender was that way. But yeah, no, it's just a really nice 23 minutes of slightly dry but very entertaining comedy with some really nice facial reactions. If you go into your GIF bar on Messenger and type in Wallace and Gromit, like the vast majority of the memes come from this special because it's just the way that Wallace will like hold his face in like a particular way. It's just really good fun.
One thing too, and Sarah, you mentioned this, that, even though technically the robot is kind of the, I guess, villain, for lack of a better term, and the fact that he gets like a decent ending. That's one of the nice things for most of the Wallace and Gromit things. Like, the bad guys get their comeuppance, but they're generally speaking, they're not over the top, with the exception of one. But when we talk about that, we'll talk about it.
Oh yeah,
that's the one thing that was really nice.
The robot was almost more like a moon cop.
Yeah.
Like he was like trying to keep the place nice, and like he put a parking ticket on the rocket because it wasn't supposed to be there. He's just trying to make sure these people aren't up to no good.
But he was ready for some fun.
It's one of the things I like as well about it is that they don't explain how it got there. And a thing that I love about all of the Wallace and Gromit shorts is that they kind of follow the MST3K mantra of it's just a show, you should really just relax. Like anything that comes up, like, you just have to kind of go with it, because if you stop to think, how did that fridge get on the moon? Why has he got a truncheon and is issuing parking tickets to people? How does he even know what a parking ticket is? He's been on the moon.
How often do people come along and give him 10p to power him up?
Yeah, and then Wallace wandering around without even a coat on, tasting the moon. this little cheese knife or whatever.
And the greatest question of all, what kind of cheese is the moon made of?
Well, it's not Wensleydale.
It's definitely not Stilton, old boy. Whatever it was, I do appreciate the fact that he superglued it back into place after they cut it off.
That was cute.
That whole robot gave me very much, and obviously there's a lot of things that anything will draw from. But this felt that whole bit specifically felt very Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
Like you've got the Marvin the Martian type guy that's, just trying to do the job, and he's like, ugh, people, ugh. But on that note too, and I know this is a consistent thing across Wallace and Gromit by and large, but the fact that, and Dan and I were talking about this, the fact that they allow the visuals to do the storytelling. There's so little dialogue in a good chunk of the shorts.
Absolutely. And this is the thing that I always, whenever I do reviews, I always say this. I really, really appreciate it when filmmakers show and don't tell. I appreciate it when they can convey 3 or 4 paragraphs worth of dialogue into just a facial expression or just a really well-timed bit. And Wallace and Gromit, the whole franchise really is a real masterclass in how to show and not tell your audience what's happening. Gromit in particular, just in every single special, has at least half a dozen moments where it's just the perfect time facial reaction. It's just the perfect sort of placement. It's fantastic. And even in the Wallace and Gromit shorts I don't like, which we will get to eventually, even then they still manage to master that showing, not telling storytelling. It's really fantastic.
I feel like Gromit might be one of my spirit animals.
Just the looks that they make him do to camera, especially with the timings. Like, there was one in this one that really got me where they're trying the cheese and Wallace is saying to him, "Is it this cheese?" And he just keeps looking at him as if to say, "You do know this isn't cheese." And occasionally he's just like shaking his head as he's going, "Wensleydale." No. He won't even try it. When he puts it in a dog bowl and gives it to him and he just sort of looks at it, sniffs it and just goes away at that. No.
I guess I didn't interpret that as him not wanting to try it. I was thinking, why don't you give him a cracker? He needs a cracker.
Oh, that's a fantastic moment as well, where they forget the crackers and the timer's ticking down and he's got to run down the ladder and I liked how, like, up until that point, all the music had been, like, tense and atmospheric, and then the music gets silly when he's running back for crackers. Yeah. It's fabulous. It really is. And it's just like you say, though, it's just such meticulous little details, and it's true with all of them, really. But like in this one, where all the mice have gathered around to watch the rocket lift off,
I was just going to mention
little sunglasses on.
Yes, I love that.
Sunglasses too.
That's so cute.
And Triv pointed it out. He said it's the attention to detail because all of those glasses are handmade and none of them look the same. They're like 10 or 15 completely different tiny pairs of glasses for mice for a visual gag that collectively lasts about 5 seconds on screen. And you just think, how much time was somebody like crafting these for? It wouldn't surprise me. Nick Park was born in the 60s and his first couple of shorts from the 70s. It wouldn't surprise me if he spent the entirety of his adolescence up to 1989 just crafting glasses for mice.
Well, the short he started making it in 1982, and it was released in 1989. It started as a graduation project at school, and he kept working on it after he got into Aardman. So this started pre-Aardman.
Wow.
Blimey.
So he was working on it for years. I think the robot is kind of left over from his original idea because he had, like, there was a whole planned out thing with lots more people on the moon than just this robot. He even wanted to do like a McDonald's on the moon. But then when he got to Aardman, somebody was looking over what he was trying to do and told him it would be 9 years if he wanted to do all that stuff. So he cut most of it.
I mean, it kind of was anyway, wasn't it?
I mean,
82 to
yeah,
89.
almost.
Yeah. It's just amazing, though, that how quickly they are able to churn them out now as well. Like, I mean, I know there have been massive gaps between the specials, obviously, but, like, when you bear in
They're
mind
working on other stuff, too, though, so it's not
Yeah.
like they're doing nothing in between.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But I mean, when you consider that, like, a grand day out obviously took between sort of 5 and 7 years, between 82 to 89. But then they followed that up like 2 years later with The Wrong Trousers, and then 2 years later again with The Close Shave. And it's like, it's just amazing how once that mechanism was rolling and in place, how they were able to just keep that momentum going and just keep because the refinements between A Grande Out and The Wrong Trousers are immense. It looks like two different styles of animation almost.
Yeah.
But it's just incredible that once they got warmed up, they were able to kind of really just keep hitting these things consistently. It wasn't like here's 9 years, then another 9 years, and then another 9 years, you know.
Yeah. I think it was probably the fact that it started out as one guy just doing it by himself. And then once he had a team that was actually doing it as a project that was going to be released, it helped them refine it a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was the first one just all him?
I mean, it was for up until a point. After he started Aardman, I think other people started working on it with him.
Yeah.
But I think he was still... I don't think it was like a main focus, because it was his personal project. We should mention, too, the names of Wallace and Gromit. Gromit apparently was picked because he liked the word grommets. His brother was an electrician and often mentioned them.
Grommets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spelled different than the piece that you would put inside of a sink or whatever, but it's basically the same word. And then Wallace was because apparently he saw an overweight Labrador retriever named Wallace belonging to an old woman boarding a bus in Preston. And he thought it was a funny name. He said it was a very northern name to give a dog, so he gave it to a man.
That's a very common sight in Preston, by the way. So.
Apparently Wallace was also supposed to be a mailman named Jerry originally.
Oh, wow.
I'm glad they changed that.
Well, and being in like, you've got Postman Pat when you're talking about British stuff or like British culture and such. It would almost do a disservice to Nick Park to kind of go the Postman route, I would think.
I mean, the postmen do many routes, so...
Oh, but no, Postman Pat does them all. He's like Santa.
He is. A fascinating choice was really for the voice of Wallace was Peter Sellis.
Childhood.
He's best known over here because he was a third of the main cast of a very, very slow burn British comedy called Last of the Summer Wine.
We gotta sing it.
We actually grew up watching that show.
Oh, nice.
we watched a lot of Britcoms on PBS on Saturday nights at Grandma's eating pizza.
You know what? It's Sunday nights on BBC is Last of the Summer Wine. It's just on before a program. Well, you guys have it, Antiques Roadshow. We have a UK version of that.
Mm-hmm. They play that here as well, like snippets.
Oh, it's the quintessential British Sunday evening. Is you have your roast dinner, and then they do songs of praise, which is basically Christian singing for half an hour, 45 minutes. Then Last of the Summer Wine, then Antiques Roadshow, and then it's basically everyone in Britain has to go to bed because it's 8:30.
For us, it was like, okay, I don't think they play Guy Lombardo anymore, but Guy Lombardo, maybe they do. And then Lawrence Welk, and then I think going into Britcoms.
Yeah.
Nice,
So.
nice.
It was always, it started out with, why am
The one with the store with Mrs. Slocum.
Oh, are you being served?
Yes.
Yeah, I
duh.
didn't
Are
watch
You
that
Being
one as
Served?
much, but we did watch it, and then...
Yeah, it always started with Are You Being Served, then Keeping Up Appearances, and then it would kind of rotate. Like, we'd get different ones in the 8 and 8:30 slots. And
as time
it
goes
was-
by, and...
I didn't realise I was speaking to a couple who recognised that the Bouquet Residence was one of the...
Ah, yes. No,
I have the
this is
entire
not the
collection on
Chinese takeaway.
DVD.
Same,
I love that
same.
show.
Oh, it's so, well, I had COVID last year, and I used to watch Keeping Up Appearances whenever it was on TV, but I'd never actually done like a start to finish viewing of them, so there were some episodes I'd missed. And I had COVID last year for about a month, like a whole month. I just kept testing positive, so I basically,
right.
they were all on iPlayer, so I just watched them all. And it was really bizarre because, like, the first 2 weeks that I had it, I was just kind of drifting in and out of consciousness. So I'd like put it on and get Patricia Rutledge going, "Come on, we've got to get to the floral bow," and then I'd fall asleep and wake up, and then it'd be, "We've got to get onto the ship. We're going to miss it." It turned out like 5 episodes had happened, so I had to wind back. Just great.
And and as time goes by, but there was another. They also played an older one with like a Fine Romance or something, but we didn't watch that one as much. But you want to know one of my favorite lines from Keeping Up Appearances?
Go on.
Is when Daisy and Onslow are in their living room, and Onslow's like, "What? she's staring at him all happy. She said something like, I just like to look at you. I just like to think, it's all mine! It's all mine!
It became a bit of a meme recently, but the one that always makes me laugh is when she's slowly getting drunk and she keeps referring to the Dowager Lady Ursula's homemade gooseberry wine.
No.
She starts off by going, "Oh, what a wonderful present, the Dowager Lady Ursula's homemade gooseberry wine." And by the end of it, she's like, "The Dowager Lady Ursula's gooseberry wine."
I feel like I'm having a tiny flashback right now.
I do remember that one, yes.
Yeah. But for people who aren't clued in, Last of the Summer Wine ran for approximately 1.2 million series, starting in 1972, I want to say, up until about 3 years ago.
It ran forever. I'm
That
sure
was
there's so
still
much of it that
going
I've
in-
never seen.
That was still going recently? I thought it only went for like 38 years or something.
Only 38 years.
How many series Last of the Summer Wine? I'm sure it hit the 40s. There was 31 series totaling 295 episodes. It ran for blooming ages. Started in 1973 and finished in 2011. And had 2 films. Just for people who didn't know what that was, the premise of the show was it was set in a small town in Yorkshire somewhere, and it was 3 elderly men coming to terms with the fact that they are elderly men and just having little adventures in their village and sort of philosophizing about life, the universe, and everything. And every episode usually ended with them sliding down a hill in a tin bath. I don't make the rules. That was just how they chose to end every episode.
See, now I have like ambitions for like I want that on my bucket list. When I'm 90, I want to slide down a hill every afternoon.
In a tin bath and
Yes.
just go awek at the end of it, at least.
How did that line go with Barry when what did he hurt his finger? And he's like, do you think it'll be fatal in about 38 years? That was one of our favorites.
It's one of those comedies that is incredibly dry. It has really funny moments, but it is a dry comedy. The humor is just in the very sort of slice of life realities of being an elderly person in England around that time. I don't think it would necessarily be for everybody, but I can certainly recommend it if you're just looking for a gentle watch. It's just nice, gentle
I feel like that
television.
got stuck in my head more than Are You Being Served? That made a bigger impression. Not that I don't remember Are You Being Served, but it made a bigger impression as far as funny moments.
Yeah.
I think it probably started playing when you were younger, because it didn't play when I was a lot younger. So the 2 that have stuck with me the most, Are You Being Served and Keeping Up Appearances, like before the others started even playing, those 2 played the earliest, and we watched them all the time when I was a kid.
I feel like as time goes by is one of the ones that made the biggest impression.
And that one
our
started
household.
later too. So that one probably was earlier in your childhood than it was for me.
Have we even gotten through the first short?
No, we're still on the first short here. But the point I was going to make was Peter Sallis being picked for Wallace's voice, I think was an inspired choice because of his work in Last of the Summer Wine. I think that in that he plays a quite sort of grounded, I wouldn't say forlorn is maybe a little bit of an extreme one, but it's the only word that's springing to mind. But I think that he captured a kind of energy that is perfect for the character of Wallace, and it's nice to see across all of the shorts that get fleshed out more and more up until A Matter of Loaf and Death, which was obviously his last on-screen appearance, and not probably his best hour, I'm going to say, but the rest of it was really good. I think it was an inspired choice.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Wasn't he like the most grounded of the 3?
Yeah, he was very much the rational one out of the
Straight
bunch.
guy.
Absolutely. Well, before I turn it into a Last of the Summer Wine podcast, one of the things that always makes me kind of smile about it is in later seasons they managed to get Burt Kwok in as a character.
Oh,
you might know him
yeah.
from the Pink Panther movies. He became a regular recurring. He was also the narrator for Banzai. I always have to introduce
He
anybody from
was?
America to Banzai. Yeah. I always have to introduce people to Banzai whenever I come on these things. But yeah, Burt Kwok was the narrator for Banzai, and also he was in the Pink Panther movies.
I guess I haven't. I don't know if I've ever seen a full Pink Panther movie, so I wouldn't have made that connection. And I've only seen the bits of Banzai that you've shown me, so that's an interesting connection between the two. I would not have guessed.
He did the highs of comedy, and then he also narrated squirrel fishing. What's not to like? I'd have a career like that quite happily.
You almost made me snort coffee out my nose. I was taking a sip when you said squirrel fishing.
Who doesn't love squirrel fishing? It's one of the best Banzai ones. Or the old lady jousting. Everybody loves old lady jousting.
Oh, that sounds like a Jonathan. If it involves elderly people humor.
I need to show you guys a full episode of Banzai at some point. I've shown clips. My favourite one is still probably The Incredible Hulk and the race for baby Danny. But like the actual series is fantastic. They did before any of the allegations came out. One of my favourite ones was the Michael Jackson Moonwalk of Death, which was a bet where they got 3 Michael Jackson impersonators on a ice hockey rink and saw who could moonwalk the furthest without falling over. It's just full of stuff like that. There was the ventriloquist dummy petrol pump of doom, which is where they had 3 ventriloquists and they had to have the dummy watch the price on a petrol gasoline meter go up, and they had to stop it before it hit £20, but they couldn't see it. They had to have the dummy tell them when to stop.
Oh no.
So yeah, a grand day out, and it certainly was.
Well, at the risk of causing another tangent, I have to mention a line because I wanted to know if you knew what it was. I think Sarah and I looked it up, but I figured it's best to go straight to the source. When they're trying to blast off away from the moon, Wallace is panicking and he says, "Hold tight, lad, and think of Lancashire Hot Pot."
Yes.
So what is Lancashire Hot Pot?
So a hot pot as a piece of food, it is basically a stew served in a gigantic Yorkshire pudding. And a Yorkshire pudding is a kind of like it's like a bread bowl, but it's made entirely out of batter.
I made it at least once.
They're really nice.
So this sounds like a pot pie, really.
Yes, it's basically a pot pie without a lid. But it's like a really doughy, battery bowl that you pour this stew into. And it's probably a good idea to mention as well at this point, because it gets referenced in every single short after this, that there is a bit of a back and forth between Lancashire and Yorkshire in these specials. And I spoke to Triv earlier, and I found out it wasn't particularly common knowledge that the reason for that is because Yorkshire and Lancashire do have a bit of a rivalry in real life. It stems back to a thing called the War of the Roses.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So a few
I thought maybe you were going to say something about sports teams or something. Oh no, we're going deep here.
So basically, a very, very long time ago, we had a bit of a constitutional crisis going on, as you do. So it's all right though. We sorted it in an afternoon, and everything was lickety-split after that. It was perfect.
Just an afternoon.
just an afternoon. It certainly wasn't 100 years war or anything. Nothing. Forget about that.
Nothing silly like that.
Yeah, it was
that
just
was
a little
the previous
skirmish.
generation.
Yeah, so it was a little small skirmish, and we resolved it very amicably. No, so basically there was a point where we didn't have a monarch on the throne, and we didn't have anybody in direct line to take it. And in Yorkshire and Lancashire, there were 2 rival factions who claimed that their lad should be the King of England. And it started off as quite sort of gentle, no, we think that our lad should be it. And then the other went, no, our lad should be it. And then it got more and more aggressive until they had a massive war. And I don't remember the outcome, but we're here now, and that's the important thing. But yeah, basically it got very nasty, and since then there's always kind of been a bit of a rivalry between Yorkshire and Lancashire. Now, luckily, it is limited to like sports teams and occasional ribbing and sort of saying, oh, you're from Yorkshire. Oh, fair enough, we've all got struggles. But yeah, so it's nice to see that Wallace and Gromit are based in Lancashire, and it's nice to see the occasional little sort of jostle at Yorkshire throughout these specials that you wouldn't really notice or know about if you didn't know that the reason why it's there stems back to a war that lasted for a while, which just makes it even funnier, really, that they take the pee out of each other.
I mean, I noticed some of the references, but like it didn't register as something important. So I did not know that there was a back and forth there. So
Excuse
that's
my
interesting.
excuse my ignorance, but are you considered Lancashire yourself, or how does that work?
So I have relatives from Lancashire. My mum's side of the family were born and lived in Lancashire for
Okay.
basically from the start of their generation up to, I think, my granddad, who then moved to the West Midlands.
Okay.
So I do have a hat in this one. You know, Lancashire is good. Triv has a hat in it because she went and lived in Yorkshire for a while. So that is why we're mortal enemies. It's just the way it is. You know.
Absolutely.
I have another question. Just with the hot pot, is the Yorkshire pudding on the top or the bottom?
It's literally treated almost like a bread bowl.
That sounds delicious.
It is really nice.
I'm taking more notes during this podcast than I normally do of things to look up later.
And again, there's a bit of a point of contention because some people won't use the Yorkshire pudding because obviously it's an invention from Yorkshire and it's a Lancashire hot pot. But other people have said, you know what? Those times have been and gone. We're done now. We are mutually friends. We only pick on each other about football. Let's have a bit of Yorkshire pudding with a Lancashire hot pot inside it. You know, a bit of ebony and ivory. It'll be fine. It's just delightful. It really is. And we don't tend to do it year round. It tends to be more of an autumn, winter, maybe early spring kind of thing, but such a total comfort food. You get that stuff going and yeah, you set up. I'm very much looking forward to stew season coming back in again now that we're on the way out because I wasn't able to really do much with it last year. But yeah, as soon as we get back into proper stew season, September, October this year, it's going to be a good winter.
We definitely haven't left it yet here.
I think we're in the last kind of main cold snap for the year over here right now, and then I think we're going to slowly start getting a bit warmer, which I'm very much looking forward to. I like winter, but I only like it in small amounts. I like to, be able to go outside again without feeling like I need to wear 18 layers of clothing.
We're supposed to get down into single digits next week at night again, so definitely haven't left it.
Oof. See, this is the thing. I always love it when I speak to folks from the Midwest because when they say they're down to single digits, I go, "Oh, what is it going to be like 1 Celsius, 2 Celsius?" And you go, "No, it's in Fahrenheit." And I go, "Oh, so you mean cold, cold? Okay."
I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit. I should learn. I really should learn so I can translate between these languages.
I mean, I generally in the UK, it's Celsius is the main one.
Right.
We've kind of had weather between sort of, let's say, -2 to about 3 or 4 over here regularly, but like Triv will come in and say it's, I don't know, 21, and I'll go, "Oh, that sounds quite warm." She'll go Fahrenheit, and I go, "Oh, that's really cold." Okay. So yeah, grand day out, and it certainly was.
Yes. Anyway.
So I suppose I should open this up with a question to you guys. Have you ever worn the wrong trousers?
Many days.
I
Never,
feel like,
never a set like this though.
I think I might be wearing them right now.
I've had trousers that I later discovered had a rip, so I guess those would be the wrong trousers.
They're not great trousers.
Some clothing items just aren't very cooperative, but you wear them anyway.
Fair point.
I'm a rather large-thighed individual, unfortunately, so I can't wear jeans comfortably. So they are usually the wrong trousers for me.
Have you ever listened to the song called "My Lucky Pants Failed Me Again"?
No, I haven't.
Well, it's a British guy who sings it. You should look it up.
Lucky
It's
pants
very
have
good.
failed me again. I'll have a look. Right, I must make a note of this. My internet
Yes.
history is going to get me in trouble with my partner this week, I can tell you.
Tom Rosenthal.
I mean, if he's a British guy, he's probably singing about his underwear, not actual pants.
No, I think it's actually Lucky Pants. I could be wrong.
Because they call trousers, the pants are trousers, and pants are underwear over there.
Yes.
Well, either way, I like the song. He also has a great one about hummus.
Ooh.
Oh, that's the same guy.
Yes,
I like
yes.
hummus.
Yes, he's very creative in his titles.
The hummus among us.
I'm going to have to look this guy up. I'll do it post podcast because we have a date with the wrong trousers. The second outing for our good pals Horace and Peanut.
I tell you, this penguin is my favorite Wallace and Gromit villain. He has to be.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And again, it links back to what I said in the chat for the Grand Day Out, which is it's incredible how much emotion and how much energy they can portray from effectively a lump of clay doing stop motion that has no dialogue.
And with the penguin especially, he doesn't even have facial expressions, but just the little subtle movements gets everything across. I was just kind of blown away watching this penguin. Like, you know exactly what he's thinking, and his face does not change.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. It's incredible. Because, like, even with Gromit, he doesn't talk, but you can usually say the eye movements or, like, his ears up or down or his, the way his body is held. Penguin, Feathers McGraw, nothing. He just waddles and stops. And again, it comes down to perfect timing as well. It's the fact that they time it in such a way that he stops at just the right moment to have that kind of emotional resonance where you go, I know exactly what he's thinking.
The tension and then like pulling on his little disguise.
Yeah.
If, with confidence and malice or whatever.
It's like if it was a second early or a second late on the edit on that, it just wouldn't work. But it's the fact that they knew the timing so perfectly for exactly what to show and what not to show and how to do it that it's perfect. It's really, really solid.
So safe to say that this is not one that you're disappointed in, right?
Absolutely. So I think the Grand Day Out is my favourite one overall. It's the one that I take the most comfort out of. It's the one that I am quite happy to slip into. The Wrong Trousers, I think, is probably the most technically impressive one of the lot. Because I think that when you consider that it was entirely done in analog, like, Were Rabbit has some really cool moments, but as Jonathan mentioned in the last cast, a good chunk of it was computer generated to try and smooth over the cracks because there was some stuff you couldn't do in real life that computers need to pick up the pace on. The Wrong Trousers was entirely done by hand. And when you consider stuff, I mean, we'll probably get to it in a bit, but the train scene towards the end, when you consider that all of that was done one frame at a time, painfully over multiple months, it's such an incredible work. I mean, Spielberg, I think, once famously said that train scene is one of the greatest chase sequences in film history, and I find it very hard to disagree with him on it, honestly.
It's so well done.
Agreed.
Absolutely. So it's probably my second favorite overall Wallace and Gromit adventure, but I think it's because I like it more technically. But I'm always a sucker for a good story, and for me, the cute gonk droid skiing around is just ever so slightly more engaging than the Feathers McGraw adventure. But it's close. It's very close.
I think this is probably my favorite of the shorts. I think it's probably a lot of people's favorites, just because Feathers is such an iconic villain.
Well, and he was so iconic, they brought him back for this too, or brought him back for Vengeance Most Foul.
Absolutely.
It's almost like the Superman thing of like, wait, it's you?
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved that moment.
Yeah. He pulls the chicken head off. And that's fantastic. It works both ways as well, because not only do they put so much emotion into Feathers, who just does not have any emotional reaction at all to the scene, like physically, but I think they do a real job in helping to sell the idea of Gromit being sad. And I think this is the first time you actually see sad Gromit as well. And they do such a powerful thing, especially when he packs up to leave home and he puts his little rain mac on and, gets his bindle and goes to the gate.
I like that this includes the word bindle in the podcast.
It's a good day when you can have that.
Everybody loves a little hobo bindle action. It's one of my favorite things.
Gromit is just so great in this. Like, that scene and his first scene at the beginning. I love the way he opens the card for his birthday and starts playing music and he just rolls his eyes. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that's about how I feel about those things.
Oh, okay. Another moment where he's probably my spirit animal. Like, I still struggle. Like, there's nothing wrong with those, and yet my dignity is like, no. There's nothing wrong with this.
It probably has one of my favourite jokes of any of the Wallace and Gromit shorts as well, which is the bit where he goes to confront Feathers with a rolling pin. and he's there like trying to look like the hard guy, and then Feathers just pulls a revolver on him. He immediately.
I love the way he pulls out the gun.
Because, like, again, in England, guns aren't really, like, a thing, so I think Gromit was going into that situation fairly confident that, like, he was going to have the sort of upper hand. So when he pulls a gun, not only is it like, oh, he's got a gun, it's like, where'd he get a gun from? This is not a common thing in England.
Punchier for British audiences than for us.
Yeah.
He has a gun.
I would say this one too does the best with like kind of the Looney Tunes aesthetic. It has those most like him pulling the gun out of nowhere, or the way that the train scene goes. They live in that world of Looney Tunes so much more in this one.
Yeah.
Now you're making me want to theorize: is he American? Like, there's no reason for him not to be.
I mean, penguins, they could be from anywhere, really, depending on, if they lived in a zoo or, someone had them as a pet or,
Where did he learn these things?
Exactly. Where did he learn to find a perfectly crafted glove that was red and use it as a what is it, a cockerel?
A comb, chicken comb.
This is where it starts to get silly to ask questions, kind of like a granddad. Like, you can ask the questions, but will you ever get the answers?
Absolutely. I mean, we know at least he learned his technical skills by reading Gromit's Electronics for Dogs book.
But does that work because Feathers isn't a dog?
True. Or
but
is
he's
he?
a genius, isn't he? So
He's bilingual. Well, trilingual. If he can understand English. He can understand English, penguin, and dog.
So here's a question, and this is more of a technical thing, but did Feathers have a name, or at this point, I know Wallace refers to him as Penguin, but did he have a name at this point, or was he named after?
Wasn't he on there was a poster, a wanted poster?
I think, it was a wanted poster, but I don't think it had his name on. I think it said, "Have you seen this chicken?"
Yeah.
But I think he probably got Feathers after the fact, or it was an internal thing, but I don't think it was actually mentioned in the special itself. I know that by A Close Shave, which was 2 years after The Wrong Trousers, he had a full name, because there's a little Easter egg in that one where Gromit's in a jail cell and they scrawled "Feathers was here" on the wall.
I'm looking at posters of this that you can buy, and I'm not seeing an extra name on it. And then another suggested Google search was with tattoo on it, so I'm wondering.
I can say that at the time, when this short came out, there was a big. This was the start of Wallace and Gromit kind of getting promotional items and like toys and stuff like that. And around this time, they released in cereal boxes pencil toppers in the shapes of Wallace, Gromit, and Feathers. And Feathers was called Feathers on the cereal boxes. So
Okay.
I'm assuming the name was like an internal thing, but probably wasn't mentioned in the short. So yeah.
These tattoos are a real thing. Oh my word, there's one with him in his little pistol, and and he's got the diamond in a bag, and he has like these little dewy eyes, and
There's a whole genre of Feathers McGraw tattoos.
oh, there's one where he's like checking his little comb in the mirror. Oh, this is distracting. Oh my word, just carry on.
It's like I say, Wallace and Gromit is such a prominent thing in UK culture that, like, many things can be discussed, but one thing is universal, that Feathers is probably the most evil bird who ever lived, and most British people will just acknowledge that immediately, without question. That
I don't know, I
penguin...
kind of feel like Feathers is my spirit animal.
I by the time we got to like watching him on the movie with him, it was weird because I felt like I just really liked him. I really liked him, and I don't know how healthy that is. It's like, look at this little tough guy off in the cell with his brains and his courage. It's like, you're supposed to be evil, but I really like you.
Well, look at any good villain, like in any franchise, if they're charismatic and can pull that out, like the good villains are the ones that you feel for. You want to gain that investment in them one way or the other. The thing that made Darth Vader so intriguing was because he was someone you could look at and go, man, that's pretty awesome.
Me, I felt myself like, I think admiration, like he's reminding me of the cat I used to have, and just like you're You're a bad dude, and I'm all about goodness and light, but dang, you've got skills.
But you can still appreciate, a bad penguin, yeah.
I'm not glorifying evil if I like the zoo jailbird penguin.
You can have respect for the jailbird penguin, I think that you respect his methods. You can he's got a certain amount of je ne sais quoi.
I think it helps as well though that he is inherently evil, but they time him as a comedy character. So when it comes to those reactions and things like that, they do a similar thing to what they do with Gromit. Is they have those times where he'll stop and just stare at something for a while, and you can already tell what's going through his head in the same way that you can with Gromit. And I think that's probably what makes him so endearing, is that, he has a kind of relatable. It's weird. It's like watching the two intelligent characters of the special having an entire conversation just through facial expressions.
Okay, quick question. With
Yes.
Feathers, yes, he used Wallace. Yes, he drove away Gromit, and that was messed up. But did he actually even intend to get Wallace in trouble? Or did he just mean to make a clean break with the diamond, and then nobody would know, and he's rich, and it's just you know?
As a standalone, I think no. I think as a standalone short, I think that Feathers saw an opportunity with Wallace's inventions and thought that it would be a way for him to get a clean getaway. And I think in the worst case scenario, Feathers probably would have used Wallace as collateral, but I don't think he was intending to use him as collateral.
Just use him and leave, and then nobody has to know.
Yeah, but I think with the added context from Vengeance Most Foul, which flashes back to the events that happened during The Wrong Trousers, I think that kind of firms up the argument that maybe he was trying to get Wallace framed to an extent, because one of the big plot lines of Vengeance is him literally trying to get him framed and put away for, doing whatever crime is being done. So I don't know. I think maybe he was not intending to, but wouldn't have hesitated given the chance.
Yeah, I kind of came into this looking like he, in not in a malicious way outrightly, but in a cartoon malicious way, he had planned to use Wallace as soon as The Wrong Trousers came into being. That was my kind of take. But again, it has been ages since I saw Wrong Trousers, and so I saw Vengeance Most Foul and then this again. So that, like what Dan said, the extra context, for me at least, made that difference.
Yeah, I think if you had only seen this one, I think he was unintended collateral damage. And then by the time of Vengeance Most Foul, even if it was still unintended, at that point he's built up such a grudge that now he wants revenge.
Right.
Most Foul?
Absolutely.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, generally speaking with this special, it kind of felt like it took what worked from A Grand Day Out, concentrated it, and then across the board they did a lot of fine-tuning and upgrading. Like, the quality of the animation is higher, the quality of the sound production and the soundscape is higher. You get so much more detail in the background of things just ticking over. It's one of those specials you can watch 20 times and still not catch every single joke that's playing out in the background or in the foreground. It feels like a short that has got the full confidence behind it that it knows what it wants to be, which is really good. And like I say, there's a reason why I kind of put it joint top in terms of the ones that I really enjoy, because it does just feel like a really tight, very well-oiled machine doing exactly what it needs to be doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's the most focused sometimes. Because some of the others can get a bit convoluted. I don't mean that in a bad way, but this one feels like
convoluted in the sense that a penguin wearing a comb.
I mean, yeah, fair enough, but I feel like as far as plots go, this is the most straightforward. Whereas in the next one, there's a lady who has a yarn shop and a robot dog who's stealing sheep so that she can stock her shop, and then there's this whole unrelated knitting machine that comes into play. And it's very convoluted, but it's hilarious. But this one is just very straightforward. There's an evil penguin. He comes and he stays with the good guys, uses the good guys to steal, and then gets caught in the end.
Ta-da!
Yay! Yay!
But it's the execution of the very straightforward-ish plot that makes this one just so good.
Absolutely. It's very much a broad story with very meticulous detail.
I love that he gets locked up in the zoo.
Yeah.
Yes.
See through his little bars.
It blows my mind, really, given that there are so many Wallace and Gromit specials, how many of them end up going back to the zoo. I hadn't really realised until I sat down and watched them all one after the other, but like basically out of the 5 specials in a film, I think like 4 of them go back to the zoo even for a small period of time.
I didn't even really think of it, but you might be right. I have to mention, like, before we get to all the penguin stuff, Wallace, this is kind of like the introduction to him making all sorts of absolutely ridiculous inventions. But I really liked at the beginning because he has this whole Rube Goldbergian contraption to get him ready in the morning. And like, it never goes like perfectly. And his reaction at the end was, well, that went about as well as expected. I like that line. It's, like, I feel like that sometimes.
It's a very British mannerism. You know? Well, it could have been worse.
Just I like the way he phrases things. Like like later on when he's talking about needing money, their bills are piling up, and he's looking over the bills and he says, "No use prevaricating about the bush." And then when he gifts the wrong trousers to Gromit, and he says, "I think you'll find this present a valuable addition to our modern lifestyle."
The look of sheer terror as it storms into the room.
I like when they frame things as if it's a horror movie. Like, they do it a lot in Curse of the Were-Rabbit, but here too, like, they do it so well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think Triv mentioned it off the call that we were having, that I like the fact that the branding is all kind of in tone with those kind of like neo-noirs and 1940s, 50s B-movie horror type films. It's just a really nice touch.
Yeah. There's always references to things. I'm sure there's so many more references than I caught that either is something that is just to the culture that would go over my head, or references a movie I hadn't seen. Like, we'll get to it later in other ones, but like, watching it when I was a kid, I did not catch a whole bunch of stuff, and then watching it as an adult, it's like, oh, they're referencing that. Oh, they're referencing that.
It's something I have a love-hate relationship with the series, because I like it when it's covert. I like it when it's like, a thing in the background is just kind of ticking over, and if you're watching it one evening, you might spot it. I really grow to dislike it when it becomes overt, when it's like very much in your face and they're just doing direct parodies of things, which they do in later specials.
I think I can understand why you have mentioned more than once the bakery one is your least favorite. They're very in your face in a couple of scenes.
Yeah.
I ended up liking them, though, but that was more because I got the reference and I had never gotten it before because I hadn't seen what they were referencing when I first watched it.
No, absolutely. But I mean, with these early specials, at least, we stay quite firmly into the kind of covert side of things, where it's like there are little references to films and media from days gone by in the background of shots. Like, one of my favourite things is how everything Gromit owns is like a parody of a real world thing, but with a dog-based name. So, like, he's listening to Bach on the radio, but it's spelled Bark. Or
Citizen Canine.
Yeah.
Or the book by Fido Dostoevsky.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah. It's just nice little things like that where I kind of go, okay, I appreciate that. But, yeah.
You like the more subtle puns rather than the in-your-face references.
Yes, I like it when it's not try, because it's a problem I have with a lot of modern cinema as well. It's when comedies do references to classic films, but they do it in a way that's kind of like, you see what we did? You see what we did?
Yeah.
I get a bit annoyed with that, because all that really says to me is, oh, so you want me to go watch the better film that you're telling me about? Whereas if it's just something in the background, you can kind of hit pause on the fourth watch and go, "Oh yeah, they've snuck that in the background. That's nice. I like that."
Uh-huh.
It's when they draw attention to it that they kind of lose me a little bit.
Or rely on it completely
Yeah.
instead of their own story.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I suppose then to cap things off, I would say I really enjoyed The Wrong Trousers, and I think that it's probably the best thing that has come out of Wallace and Gromit on a versatile and technical level. I had a really good time with it, and that's my final 10 penneth on it.
Yeah, I think it is probably my favorite. I think everything about it is genius. I think the train chase is hilarious and genius. Like, who would have thought to put a final boss battle chase scene on a toy train in a living room and make it that thrilling and well paced? It's amazing what they can do. This one is brilliant.
Do you think
Absolutely.
Edgar Wright doing Ant-Man, there's the whole toy train set that kind of goes on. Do
Oh,
you think that was pulled from this or inspired
I
I
this?
didn't
believe it.
think it's been a while since I've seen Ant-Man, but I bet there was a bit of inspiration taken.
Almost certainly.
It's not the same, but like it's a toy train in a living room and a whole big chase and battle on a toy train. So,
Right.
And Edgar Wright and his crew are British and grew up in a similar
uh,
time period to
okay,
myself, so
well
they
then
almost
that
certainly.
has to be. I didn't realize he was British. That has to be. He had to have seen that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
I'm in the mood for ice cream, so I'm gonna go get some ice cream.
Right, I'll see you in about 2.5 hours, 3 hours. Chicago is how far away?
Ice cream obtained, although it's
What
not
flavor?
Carvel.
What flavor?
Cookies and cream?
Okay, you're allowed to stay.
Thanks. I think.
It depends on. It's a very serious business. The matter of ice cream. I actually have a cookie dough one in the freezer myself. I would go and get it, but I've got pizza, so I got to be careful.
Oh yeah, you definitely don't want to mix. You don't want to cross the streams.
No, no. I mean, the thing is, there's nothing between myself, God, and the police stopping me from having ice cream before pizza, but pizza before ice cream seems like the morally sound choice.
Yeah, I think so. I think you always do savory before sweet.
Hmm. Yeah. No, agreed. Agreed. I mean, I still love the fact that I can go and buy a birthday cake whenever I want and just eat it. Doesn't even have to be my birthday. If I want a tasty vanilla sponge treat, just put it in my basket. Sorted.
Absolutely, and that's a nice thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah's coming back in now. So,
Tempting. Okay. Doors closed, headphones are on. Good.
Let's hit it.
It's all right. I've sent the vicar out.
The vicar.
Bring the vicar back. You know full well we need him to be able to complete this.
No, he was booked for Were Rabbit. I've got to send him away now, otherwise he'll start charging overtime. Well, that was a close shave, wasn't it?
Just by a hair.
So, sort of non-essential question. Are they always called, like, vicars or priests in England? How does that work?
So I think it falls down religious lines. I think it depends on what sort of side of the church you're in. I think vicars are an offshoot and priests are an offshoot because unless, to be honest, I don't know. That's probably the best way to say. I would assume it was offshoots, but
And I should say, like, majority, because, of course, you would have exceptions.
I'm not an expert. I know that the vicar is an Anglican position. So
oh,
I'm thinking like when the Catholic Church split off, that's where the priest came in. But I don't know if there's priests in the Anglican Church or not.
yeah, that sounds about right.
Hang on, let me check. Priest versus vicar. There was also priest versus vampire.
Ooh,
Okay, a priest is a member of the clergy who serves a church, while a vicar is a priest who works for or in a place of a parish pastor. So priest administers the sacraments, visits the sick, oversees religious education. Vicars represent the bishop or parish priest and play a critical role in the spiritual or administrative life of a congregation. So basically the same thing. Also, just for reference, the basic thing with Anglican or being Anglican or being Catholic it's kind of a variation of a Reformed Catholic. They don't recognize the Pope. Instead, the head of the Church of England is a British monarch. Yeah.
British monarch.
Oh, yeah. Was that the one that Henry VIII came up with?
Yes.
There was
Probably,
yes.
dissolution of monasteries.
Yep.
I would imagine that that's where they,
So a close shave, guys.
Yes, I will pull back now. I will pull back because my brain was already going to how he was a composer and he was like, anyway, no, we're going. A close shave.
Hey, John, just real quick before we go into that, just real quick, I say, like, because all this kind of does relate back to Wallace and Gromit, at least the stuff that doesn't involve Carvel ice cream, leave it in. Let it be, if it makes sense to the explanations, leave it in, because that is part of the understanding the culture around it all. You know, I mean, whether it be Sarah with some great information or Dan with his great information, I mean, you've got a lot of interesting perspectives on Wallace and Gromit.
I don't know what I provided, but thank you for recognizing me.
Absolutely.
Oh, pizza.
I can hear it. It's in my fridge. It's calling me. I've got the oven preheated to 200.
I would like to point out that I've been eating ice cream. Not good ice cream, but ice cream.
Okay.
So welcome back to the Carvel Cast, guys, where we talk about ice cream that matters.
We need some Wallace and Gromit shaped ice cream.
Oh,
That
that'd
would be nice.
cute. Like a little
That would be
grommet
nice.
cake.
Well, funny you mentioned that. This is going to go well already, I can tell. Wallace and Gromit have done food promotions in the past, and their most regular contributors, there are two that they normally sign up with. There's a company over here called Jacobs that are the UK's highest producer of crackers. And at Christmas they do like cracker and biscuit selection boxes where you get just a big tub of crackers that you can use for cheese boards, things like that. Wallace and Gromit
I was trying to figure
done...
out in my head whether you were talking about crackers the food or crackers those things that you explode at Christmas.
No. Crackers, the lovely edible food with cheese. Wallace and Gromit have done tie-ins with them in the past where they've appeared on the packaging and kind of done all those sort of promotional bits. They have also done promotional tie-ins with a pickle company called Branston Pickle over here, which is a relish that you can put on cheese with crackers that kind of gives it like a nice tang.
Oh, sounds good.
They in the
cheese and
90s
pickle.
when it's fantastic. It really is, and highly recommended. They do big chunk or small chunk. That's all, but they're really good. If you're overfaced by a big chunk, don't worry, they got you covered. If a small chunk isn't giving you that pop, they got you covered.
Go half and half. Now,
yeah.
I want to know what flavor are the pickles. Is it sweet pickle, sour pickle?
It's a
Spicy
sour
pickle?
pickle. It's a sour pickled onion. They did do a hot pickle very briefly, but I don't know if it's still available. But it's a sour pickle relish.
That sounds
like
a bit
chutney
too
kind
much
of
for
thing.
the British palate.
We've got to be careful. We've got to be careful. Can we greyify this in any way? How can we make this more bland?
I mean, that's kind of Midwest food too, honestly.
I don't know why I ended up liking hot food, because it's not really a Midwest thing.
I think it's just your body chemistry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the subject of random Wallace and Gromit things, at Blackpool, which is a seaside town that does a lot of like amusement things, there is a Wallace and Gromit ride.
One better still, at that Wallace and Gromit ride, there is also a Wallace and Gromit gift shop that is full of Wallace and Gromit merchandise.
Dan, will you take me there?
Yes, you can buy like Gromit plushies and stuff like that. It's really good.
Aw, curse my side of the pond.
Absolutely. I need to see if I can. They might have an online gift shop, and that's another thing. And this isn't going to offshoot, I promise. So, just
Like
to finish
hell
off the
it
food.
won't.
So just to finish off the food bit, they also did a lot of promotionals with cereal companies, mainly doing like pencil toppers, bike reflectors, pencils and stationery, stuff like that. But the most important thing you will learn today is that Wallace and Gromit are huge in the Asian territories, and in particular Japan and Korea.
Wow.
That does not surprise me in the least.
Is
I
that
didn't
what
know that, but
Canadians
that
in
does
the
not
UK?
surprise me.
There is entire merch ranges that are entirely only sold to those territories. You can't even buy them in England. But like,
This sounds like Jenna and I talk about Alice in Wonderland stuff all the time. For whatever reason, Alice in Wonderland is huge over there, and they have Disney has so many things that you cannot buy anywhere else. It's just specifically there, like specific characters, like the oysters in Alice in Wonderland. They're a huge character over there. Also, in the Aristocats, Marie. They love Marie, and there's a line of Marie merch. So it does not surprise me that they latched on to specific characters and have a market just for random merchandise that you can't get anywhere else.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I am loving that tea towel, by the way, the Feathers McGraw tea towel.
Isn't that cute?
That's really good. I like it. Feathers egg cup is a nice touch.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you ever make it over here, Trev will take you to the Wallace and Gromit gift shop as well. But, yeah, so a close shave. Another solid entry in the Wallace and Gromit short film collection, but I hasten to add, probably not the best one.
This is the one that, until semi-recently, this is the one I would always think of. Like, when I was a kid, this is the one I remembered the most, probably. And I think it probably has to do with Shaun. Like, Shaun the Sheep became, like, a favorite character, not just to me, but, like, in the world. Like, he got his own spin-off show. He's now had 2 movies. He had 2 movies before Wallace and Gromit had 2 movies.
Yeah. Adorable.
He's such an adorable character. And another one that, just facial expressions. He says so much without saying a thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's a delightful special. The only thing that I really have a hindrance with this one on, if I have any hindrance with it at all, is that it feels just a little weaker on premise. Like with the last 2 stories, it's been very broad premise, and the joy has been in the very minute details that the specials have. It's like how they figure it out that's the really clever and entertaining and brilliant bit. And a close shave still does that, but I just don't feel it's quite as powerful as Wrong Trousers or A Grand Day Out for that. I'm in the same boat as you in the sense that this is the one that I always think of the most strongly when I think of Wallace and Gromit. It's certainly the more memorable in terms of grandness, but at the same time I feel like the premise isn't quite as figured out as it could be. I feel like it could either be simplified a bit more or a bit more detail added. I feel like 30 minutes for it just wasn't quite enough time to cram in everything we needed to get the thing fully off the ground. That's not to say I don't like it. I love it. I think it's definitely still up there. I just don't think it's quite as good as Grand Day Out or Wrong Trousers.
It does take, and I know that it's that fine line of as you move along, like with the Harry Potter books, for instance, or the movies or books, for instance, they do get a little darker as you go along. There are some elements of this that do go, like, and I know we get that even more so with the next one, but there are elements of this that could be considered almost a bit dark for a kid's thing, you know? Like the inclination of what happens in the last 5 or 6 minutes.
But they do it so cutely.
I mean, I know what you mean, Trev. If somebody told me they didn't like cheese, I'd be traumatized as well.
Absolutely.
I do love his slow realization and reaction to her revelation. Like, what? This is really horrifying.
Not even Wensleydale. But no, I know what you mean. It's some dark moments like the Mutton-O-Matic. That's the one that always kind of sits with me a little bit uncomfortable because it's this great big grinding machine. And the way that the machine is set up, the expectation is that he's been literally just like wholesale shoving sheep into this grindy machine with no kind of...
I really did not fully process that as a child or as an adult.
No. I got the sense that he hadn't done it yet. Like, this was his first batch because he steals the blueprints for Wallace's knitting machine halfway through. So I got the feeling that this was like the test run. So I don't think he's ground up any sheep yet.
But hadn't they already been making dog food?
Yeah, they've got the full dog food factory, haven't they, with the neon lights on the outside and the chimneys.
Oh, this might have been a new process, though, too.
I was thinking it was new because, like, Gwendoline has the line about, it was fine when it was just the wool, but this is evil. Like, this is a new development in his machinations.
I think we come back to the MST3K rule of it's just a show we shouldn't think too much about.
Because honestly, I was going down the route of, okay, food inspector comes in there, because there's been like 3 dogs that have choked on, gotten hairballs from all of the wool that's in the actual process.
Maybe it was supposed to be all for him. I don't know. But he's a robot dog, so he's probably not eating anything.
No.
I mean, that then goes to ask,
Strike that.
do electric dogs dream of electric sheep?
Oh, man.
I'll just take a minute to appreciate the Knitomatic as a device.
I mean, if I had one of those, I would probably do a lot more knitting.
You mean the machine would be doing the knitting?
True, but I would have fun putting the yarn in and watching it go.
But you'd have to make sure that it's the right size because the little one that came out was good size for Sean, but it would only work as like a head sweater for Wallace.
I mean, if it was a real thing, I would hope it would have settings, and I could just customize it how I felt like.
No, you just have to hope for stretchy wool.
That, and as well, the Knitomatic is directly connected to the Shaver-matic, so you're going to have to find a whole thing to shave in order to get the wool into the Knitomatic to make the knitted stuff. I'm more concerned at the fact that it only makes jumpers. How come we can't have bobble hats or, like, knitted trousers?
I would like knitted underpants, please.
That would be good, yeah. Pop
Or
them in the
like,
microwave
that's the
30
thing.
seconds, you're having a really good day.
No. Even more so than that, I would be game for a knit string vest.
Yeah, exactly. Although a bit scratchy. You'd have to get good wool. Lamb's wool,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah. I mean, that's what we're all dealing with, so that's good.
I will say I did like the reveal of Preston. The sort of twist towards the end. Now, you got to imagine this came out, I think it was 2 or 3 years after Terminator 2. So it was quite a nice little subtle reference to...
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. And I like the way they handled it. I like that it wasn't overt until kind of the last possible minute, and then they kind of reveal it. It's a bit more, One of the things that I really like, and this is the main set piece from A Close Shave, is the plane flight finale, which is an homage to a lot of British wartime films. In particular, things like The Dam Busters, which is probably the most famous wartime British film to come out. I thought it was really, really well handled, and I really like the fact that the porridge gun gets like a decent transition all the way through. Like, it starts off as just like a quirky breakfast invention, but by the end it actually does have a quite unique purpose and does kind of help to save the day almost. And I also like the fact that Gromit tinkers with it all the way through. It's nice sort of sewing the narrative throughout the episode to sort of show that it will be useful, but not necessarily overtly telling you it's going to be useful.
I don't think there's a Wallace and Gromit thing that I've watched that wasn't clever.
Agreed. Very much agreed.
I like that this one sets up a lot of things that become staples of the series. Like, we already have him being an inventor and has things that kind of go wrong. But this one is the first instance of him, like, starting a business with his inventions. Because, like, in the last one, they were running out of money, so he had to lend the room to the penguin. But in this one, they're trying to earn money using the inventions. And this becomes like a thing that happens from now on.
Yeah,
absolutely. And it is neat how they like transition things. Like, they keep the same base, so like, they've got the vehicle in the garage, and it's almost like a James Bond kind of thing, the way that they play it. Nothing is as it seems.
It's also, as Trev says, the sort of start of some of the regular occurrences becoming more regular, like the Wallace falling through the ceiling thing happens in every film pretty much after this one. The garage bit changes vehicle and changes the mechanics of how they get there, but that is always repeated from this point onwards. I really appreciate that they do... This is the start of the kind of background callbacks to their other adventures. So, like, the rocket ships are much more prominent on the walls or as little toys in the background. There's a reference to Feathers McGraw being in the same jail cell as Gromit when he's captured by the police. When they go to the dog food factory, I think there's a poster on the wall that turns up again in Curse of the Were-Rabbit. And there's also, in a bit of foreshadowing, I think it's this one that this foreshadowing, there's an advert for a product called Bob's Buns.
Oh, yeah, that's this one.
Yeah, and then in the next special, which was nearly 12 years after this came out, the film opens with, and mild spoilers for the opening of the next one, the death of Bob and his buns, which I thought was quite a nice callback.
It started as kind of an in-joke because one of the writers is Bob Baker. So they put Try Bob's Buns because his last name is Baker, and then he became an actual character who gets murdered in the next one.
Fun fact as well, Bob Baker is one half of the creators of K9 from Doctor Who. They made the Little Robot Dog. Yeah.
The same guy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
At least I'm pretty sure. I'll double check it.
One other neat thing, too, you're talking about the things that kind of become normal, like Gromit reading the paper, and just some of the stories, if you pause it and look at some of the stories, like they're so fun and creative. And oftentimes, obviously, they relate back to what's going on. But one of them was relating back to Feathers being put in prison. There was one about the moon and the cheese moon prices. There was a lot of just cute bits like that.
There was a newspaper in the previous one, too, and one of the headlines was, Dog Reads Newspaper. One of them also said, Sheep Found Guilty, and I was wondering if that was foreshadowing to this one.
But possibly. And the way that they play Sean as such a... Obviously, he's an adorable sheep, but he's not just cute, he kind of learns as he goes. Because a lot of times when you see sheep portrayed... They are mindless, but they give him, as was kind of said earlier, they give him personality, but then they give him purpose. He's not just leading them to what's going on. He's also like taking part in their rescue and everything else. Mm-hmm. Which makes sense that they made him a much more prominent character in his own way.
Yeah. I'm sure he's probably one of the things that became huge in Japan, too, because he's adorable.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he's had a lot of merch put through. I was going to say, on the newspaper front, I did like that scene where all of the sheep are gathering around Wallace as he's reading about Gromit's trial, and they just keep getting closer and closer into him. I thought that was a really nice touch. I did just check, it is the same Bob Baker. So the guy who is Baker Bob is also the person who made K9 from Doctor Who.
Well, there's another connection to Doctor Who. Like, I always find Doctor Who connections in British productions, but there's a bunch in Wallace and Gromit. But the one from this one that stuck out to me was because I was looking up Wendeline, because this is the first time there's another character who speaks in a Wallace and Gromit cartoon, and another love interest for Wallace, which becomes a thing in most following Wallace and Gromits. But Anne Reid plays Wendeline. And I didn't know who she was. I was looking through her IMDb and I was like, I don't know who this person is. There's probably nothing I've seen. But it turns out I do. She was in Doctor Who. She's the little old lady who's actually an alien vampire. And she has a little bendy straw to drink the people's blood.
Yes.
Like one of my favorite little visual gags, the little old lady holding up the bendy straw.
Perfect. Oh, fantastic. There was another subtle one as well, just to mention it. I think it was in the wrong trousers, but it was also referenced in here as the police station has the word police written on it in white letters, and it's the TARDIS blue doors on the opening of the police station.
I saw that. I was going to ask, was that a nod to Doctor Who, or is that a thing? Because I know police boxes are a thing, but I was like, they wouldn't have that on the police station, would they?
No, police station doors are typically whatever colour whatever colour they were fitted as. So if it was just wood, it was just wood, or if it's black, it's black. It's usually a formal colour. They're not painted blue as standard. So that was one where I did kind of notice and go, oh, TARDIS blue, nice. Probably a little reference to Doctor Who, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I will add too on the back end, and we talked about the great stunt work or the great chase scene in the Wrong Trousers. The chase scene in this, where all the sheep are kind of piled up on the motorcycle, like that whole scene, I can't imagine trying to do that in stop motion. That's just incredible.
I would have to imagine that they would have built some kind of a frame that are inside the sheep holding them together, because otherwise that would be so hard.
I like that. Get yourselves organized.
Like, it's so easy to watch and forget the work that goes into that, even for shorts like this. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's why I was so impressed with how quickly they were able to spit these out. So Grand Day Out, as you mentioned, took probably close to 9 years to come to fruition. Wrong Trousers was about 2 or 3 years after that, and A Close Shave is 2 years after that. So, like, the fact that they were able to progress so quickly from, something Nick Park just did in his spare time when he was out of school to such intricate and detailed stuff with such a narrow window as well. It's incredible. Even with more people on it, it's still amazing they were able to do them this quickly.
I would have to imagine that they would have had to set up multiple scenes with multiple people working on each thing, because otherwise, like if you're doing it in order, it would take forever.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, they probably do have people just like working in squads almost.
Yeah.
But can you imagine waking up in the morning to realize that your entire day is making a penguin move a foot across the floor?
Crazy.
Or
Absolutely.
making a tiny, adorable sheep eat someone's house.
Yeah.
Well, that would be
that
fun
was a
at that
fantastic.
point.
Oh yeah, it was a fantastic way to end the special with just a very cute image of Sean eating the cheese from inside the cheese dish.
He really is cute. I need like a little Sean statue or something.
I'll have to have a look around. There are lots of Sean merchandise because, as you say, he was quite successful over here in his own right. They did a spin-off of the spin-off. So Sean went off to do Shaun the Sheep, which was like a multi-season spin-off thing, and they did 2 films. But then a character in Shaun the Sheep called Timmy got a spin-off himself for like children's BBC for like really young kids, where he sort of teaches him maths and English.
Aww.
Yeah. It's cute. I watched a few episodes, but I kind of got bored with it because I'm not the target audience. But for, like, if you have kids, I would definitely say look for Timmy Time because it is very cute.
I love
Absolutely.
Timmy is
Absolutely.
also like that character from Shaun the Sheep. He is one of the best characters. So if anyone deserves a spin-off from Shaun the Sheep, it's Timmy.
One other thing that you had mentioned, Dan, just real quick, not to tangent, but it is actually associated with this. You talked about some of the merch that was associated with Close Shave. Those little pencil toppers. Talk about the ones for this.
Oh yes, so we had a bit more of an extended merch range as a result of A Close Shave. So I actually had a few of these. They did. Again, the cereal companies put out a load of pencil toppers, and one of them was of Preston. And when you slid your pencil into it, it looked like he was eating the pencil. It's like he had his hands up, and you put the pencil through his hands, and it looks like he's biting through the pencil. They had one of Gromit from when he's on his bungee cord, so when you put it on the pencil, it looks like he's just come down from a bungee.
I forgot. I need to mention that line. The bounce has gone from his bungee.
Yeah, that's reference later, and I didn't realize at the time that was a callback to a short.
Just the way he says that line. I love his voice. The bounce has gone from his bungee.
But another thing as well they started doing around this time is they actually started getting more involved into things like fashion and plushies and things like that. So you could get my uncle for his wedding as a gift for him. Him and his wife received Wallace and Wendy plush dolls that were quite cool. They were very sort of detailed and nice looking. You could get monogrammed Wallace and Gromit and Wallace and Wendy handkerchiefs and what they call cufflinks and ties, and this was the start of them really sort of capitalizing on the brand name and sort of going more down the merchandise route. Whereas the Wrong Trousers was kind of, it was anticipated, but I don't think they quite figured out that they could capitalize on it from a merch standpoint. By the time A Close Shave rolled around, they were actively and aggressively putting Wallace and Gromit merch out, and I think this was the time where it really kind of hit its peak in terms of people like just going out and buying anything with Wallace and Gromit's face on it. You know, you could get mugs and at this time, and this is the weirdest one, at this point in time, they actually released novelizations of all of the stories and did audiobooks of them.
Oh, really?
Really?
So, yeah, so one of my first experiences of Wallace and Gromit All In was obviously I watched the specials first, but when I went to my local library as a youth, they had an audiobook session and they had from BBC Books the complete Wallace and Gromit on audiobook. And it's literally just adaptations of the stories read in deep description by a narrator. They were quite good. A Grand Day Out, I seem to remember, had like a ton more detail. It was just like a lot. Well, they had to describe what Wallace's spaceship looked like, so the entire interior of it had to be described in minute detail. But it was
Hmm.
across 4 cassette tapes, and I can remember spending most of my summer that year just listening to the Adventures of Wallace and Gromit on audiobook.
Aw.
Wow.
I would not have thought of the Wallace and Gromit shorts as something that could be turned into an audiobook, but that's interesting. So did they add scenes, or was it just a one-for-one recreation of the short?
So it's funny you mention it. It's kind of a bit of both. They largely stay faithful to the short, but they do add a few more extra details in. I've just taken a look online, and I'll share this with you. They actually have a rip of the cassette tape. So this is what I would have listened to back in the day, to the full audiobook, which is on YouTube. It covers A Grand Day Out, The Wrong Trousers, and A Close Shave, and it's read by Wallace himself.
Aw.
Interesting.
That's really cool.
And apparently there's another audiobook that's of an adventure that didn't get adapted called Wallace and Gromit and the Lost Slippers.
Wensleydale.
Cheese!
I've not said that right the entire time. It's Wensleydale, not Wesleydale, not Walla Walla Wing, Walla Walla Ding Dong.
It's Wend like Wendy,
Right.
Wensleydale.
Yes.
Yes. I do like a bit of Gorgonzola, though. I don't like Gorgonzola. I had a very bad experience with it. My uncle's lovely. This is my other uncle, not the one who got Wallace and Gromit gifts for his wedding. I have another uncle. He's a lovely, lovely man. I think he's fantastic. But as a practical joke one Christmas, he bought in some Gorgonzola and had never tried it before. And he was like, "Oh, do you want to try some? It's really nice." And I was like, "Okay, sure," because my dad used to love it to pieces. So he cut me off this great big wad of it, and I was like, "Oh, how much are you supposed to put on?" And I sort of cut a chunk, and he went, "Oh, about that size will do." And I put it on a cracker, put it in my mouth, and got blown halfway across the room because it's like
Oh.
the most potent, strongest cheese you can possibly eat. And I'd like the equivalent, I imagine, would be like picking up a ghost pepper and just like taking a big bite out of it.
I wonder what Stinking Bishop is like.
I was just wondering that too. Is it anything like Gorgonzola? Because I've always heard of Stinking Bishop being like one of the bad ones. I don't think I've ever heard of Gorgonzola being bad, but I've never had either.
Let me have a look. No, Stinking Bishop isn't the same as Gorgonzola.
Well, I just mean like in terms of like
Oh, potency.
potency.
Possibly. Um, Stilton and blue cheese are very, very small amount cheeses, from what I understand. You're not supposed to just like cut a slice and go to town. It's supposed to be like a tiny, tiny bit spread thinly.
I don't know what the Stinking Bishop tastes like, but boy, it looks good.
It does look delightful. It kind of reminds me of brie.
Right, and we love brie.
Oh, Brehave.
But
I
is it
do.
stronger than brie? Because in Curse of the Were-Rabbit, they basically used it as smelling salts. Or was it just because it was cheese and that's why it woke him up?
I imagine it's probably it could be a bit of both. I know brie doesn't really have a particularly strong smell. I'm also only just learning that this is a cheese that didn't exist before 1972.
Really?
1971, Stinking Bishop, people would have just looked at you as if you were looking for a really smelly clergyman.
And it sounds like something and looks like something that should be much older.
Very much. Is it creamy?
It looks
It
creepy.
is, yeah. It's let me find a picture of it for you. Here you go.
Oh, I'm looking at a picture of it. It looks like it could, if you picked it up, it could start to kind of fall out the side.
Yeah, it's like I say, it's got a bit of a brie quality to it.
Oh,
like,
yeah. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
Okay. So just 68 heifers of the old, do I say Gloucester, breed were left in the world. Charles Martel bought up many of the surviving cows and began to produce cheese from their milk, not initially for its own sake, but to promote interest in the breed. With a revival of interest from other farmers in the endangered breed overall, however you say it, cow, numbers began to recover, increasing to around blah blah. So it sounds like that's where this came from.
the distinctive odor of Stinking Bishop comes from the ripening process, during which the cheese is rind washed in perry.
That's a
Every
type of
fall,
booze, isn't it? Or no?
it is. The fat content is 48%.
Wow.
Okay.
So you're basically eating sort of cheese-flavored lard, effectively.
You're not putting me off of it
Here's a
yet.
question. To quote your line, Dan, I've not heard anything that has turned me off yet.
No, I'm only hearing wins here.
Yeah. So comparing Stinking Bishop to Limburger, I wonder how they would match up as far as the smell.
I'm gonna Google it.
I imagine this is probably more potent because of how it's matured. Because Perry is a very striking, sharp alcohol. Apparently, you can buy 100 grams of it for £6.
Wow.
Okay, Stinking Bishop is generally considered to have a more intense and quote-unquote offensive odor compared to Limburger.
Oh, well, there you go.
Often described as having a more putrid aroma due to the perry used in its washing process.
That sounds like the comfiest American video I've ever seen in my life. The first YouTube video that pops up when you type in Stinking Bishop is a YouTube video titled English Gentleman Tries the Stinkiest Cheese.
Yes. Okay, have we talked about anything that has to do with this yet, besides when we were talking about the other one?
I don't think we talked about anything to do with the matter of Loaf and Death yet.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's been introed yet.
So this was the last one to feature Peter Sallis.
Was he not used in any movies or anything?
Well, he's in Curse of the Were-Rabbit, but that came out before A Matter of Loaf and Death.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I did not realize.
Yeah, this one came out in 2008.
It was. So this was Christmas Day 2008 in the UK on the BBC channel. It was the programme, I believe, that ran either just before or just after the Doctor Who Christmas special of that year, which was Voyage of the Damned, David Tennant and Kylie Minogue.
But, okay, but you're saying that he did the voice for the Were-Rabbit before this short?
Yes, so Curse of the Were-Rabbit came out in 2005, and this came out in
Okay.
2008.
I
And he
didn't realize it
lived
was that
until, I think, 2011, I want to say.
More. I looked at, he was 2017, he was 96.
Oh, that's right, it was 2017.
Oh, 17. Okay, fair enough.
And I only
Fair
know
enough.
that because I recently Googled him, so.
I mean, 96 is a good age, though, isn't it?
It is, and it is listed as natural causes, very justifiably.
Mm. In terms of a special to go out on,
It's the nudity, isn't it? That's what's bothering you.
I have I have a lot of issues with this one. I wanna like it because it's Wallace and Gromit, but like the vibe that I got off it, and I said this to Triv, is that it feels like it was made by people who knew what Wallace and Gromit was, but weren't sure how to make Wallace and Gromit. There was a lot of moments in this that felt Wallace and Gromit-esque, but didn't feel genuine as a Wallace and Gromit short. And some of the thematic choices in this special also made me feel simultaneously a bit uncomfortable and made it feel less like a Wallace and Gromit special to me. And given that they'd been away from television screens since 1995 at this point, obviously Were-Rabbit was a theatrical release, it didn't feel like so much a grand return to form for me and more a sort of, they felt like they'd just won an award for Were-Rabbit and needed to put something else out to kind of keep the momentum going. I probably the three biggest issues I have with it, I'll get out the way up front unless anybody else has anything they want to say.
Complain away.
Okay.
Go for
So my first biggest problem with it is the romanticizing between Wallace and Paella. I think they get the balance wrong. Like, I think they did it really well with Wendy because they kind of played it as a little bit chaste and they made it a little bit more British and subtle. Whereas with Matter of Loaf and Death, they go very overt with it. A scene in particular that just made me feel a bit cringy is the bit where Wallace does flamenco dancing with Paella, and then it cuts to a shot of a rising loaf of bread in an oven. And I'll be honest with you, I don't want to think of that whilst I'm watching Wallace and Gromit. Like, I know it can be inferred as romantic intent and sort of blossoming romanticism, but I interpreted it as a completely different thing because it was in relation to when Paella kisses Wallace, it brings a certain striking imagery into my mind personally. I found it a bit uncomfortable because it's just sort of not handled as well as I think it could have been handled, and it feels a bit awkward and a little cringy in places. So that was point one that kind of threw me a bit, because that's the basic premise of the entire plot. So if I'm stuck with that for the full ride, that's going to be a problem. The other aspect was that this is the first short that seems to swap covert references to films, television, and media to overt references to films, media, and television. There are references to Ghost, like overt references to Ghost, where they do the pottery wheel parody, which has been done to death in many, many other films and television programs. So why they did it here, I don't know. Aliens gets a reference, an overt reference that again
It's
just
not
feels
not even a reference. It's like a full-on parody of the final battle between Ripley and the Alien Queen.
Can I just say I've never even watched Ghost, and I got the reference.
This is the thing. Aliens got a 1-for-1. They, for some reason, do at least 3 minutes from Batman 66, the movie.
Which I had never seen that when I originally watched that, and we recently did Batman 66 for the podcast, like not too long before I rewatched this. I was like, wait a minute, that's a scene.
Although I will say, I think the ending of this is more explosive, and you're gonna have to stay till the end to see how it goes.
To be honest, when I bear in mind that Peter Sellers, this was his last performance as Wallace, and in that particular scene, there's a scene where he has to say the line, "Watch out, boy, I've got a bomb in me pants." I kind of sat there and thought, do you think that when Peter Sellers was in his 20s, he thought that by the time he was in his 80s, he'd get such star-studded line readings as that? And there was other references. There was things like references to Misery in there from Stephen King, and other little bits and pieces that are just, again, given that the tone of these specials up to this point has been to be intelligent and subtle, to suddenly go very overt and, I don't want to say lowest common denominator, but like trying to just reach people who, references are all they've got. That kind of felt like a cheapening to me almost of the series a bit, and it really didn't win me over. And probably the final thing that really kind of put me off this special altogether is Fluffles and the treatment of Fluffles. Like they do overt animal cruelty in this, and it's not in like a Looney Tunes way. It's in an actually quite unpleasant and graphic way. Like, I don't want to watch a Wallace and Gromit special and have a moment where there's a whimpering dog being beaten up by a woman and it not, in no way being played for anything other than a very serious event. And just that combination of all of these elements, it felt a bit like it was going low when I think that it was in a place where it could have gone high. And there's a lot of good stuff in this. There was things that I enjoyed, but on the whole, this is the only one out of all of the Wallace and Gromit films and specials and shorts. This is the only one that I got to the end credits and I went, yeah, I don't think I'm going to watch this one again. Or at least it's going to be a very long time before I watch it again.
Yeah, like when I first watched this one, like it was, of course, years after I'd seen the original ones. So this one I watched as an adult. I didn't like this one when I first watched it. I think I liked it better now, but most of that has to do with because I got the references. Because, like, when I first watched this, I had never seen Aliens. I had never seen the Batman 1966 movie. So it was fun to watch this and then get those references. But they were also, like you said, extremely overt. And the Alien one, when I realized what was going on with that, I was like, okay, this is going on for a long time, parodying this scene. So I can see why that would be a turnoff for people now. I think what I didn't like about it when I first watched it was because it just does not feel like the other ones. It's darker, it's more violent, there's like straight up murders.
Yeah.
Played for laughs, of course, but like at least at the time that I watched it, I hadn't seen a whole lot of stuff like that was funny. So it didn't strike me as very funny at all. It had very few moments that was like, oh yeah, that was funny, that was clever. It was just like, I don't know, I just didn't like it the first time I watched it. I did not watch it again until for this podcast. So watching it now, I liked it more than I did back then. So that probably tells you that I really didn't like it back then, since I never watched it again. So, like, it's better than I remembered, but it's still not great.
I would say I'm with Dan on a lot of this, and this was my first viewing of it. So, I mean, when Dan said, "Hey, there are some things that are kind of about this," I kept that in mind, but I tried not to let it influence a lot of my thoughts. But the movie references, like I said, they didn't edit. The one good thing about the other Wallace and Gromit shorts is they're edited to a point where it makes sense. It's well put together. It is sharply edited. It's well edited on top of that. This didn't feel like half an hour. Like, if you would have sat me down without a clock or without any way to tell the time, I would have assumed this was an hour long. It felt so long, and it didn't do a lot of the stuff that I think it was setting out to do. And I know I'm jumping to the end here, but the way that they take out Paella, I don't know.
It's very Disney, isn't it?
It is very Disney. It's not. It doesn't strike me as if you know Wallace and Gromit, like you do have bad guys. They do get comeuppance that are, kind of equal to what the crime is. I don't know. It just, for a kid's piece, even from that perspective, like, we have no history of it doing this, and just, I don't know. It kind of bugged me.
No, I think, like, I get it, but like, the end is one of the things I think that I really did not like back the first time I watched it. I guess it is sort of fitting because she is literally a serial killer. She has literally murdered 12 other humans.
Which is part of your problem with the short, probably.
Yeah. But then at the end, when she is, like, off screen, messily devoured by a crocodile. Well, that probably almost disturbed me the first time I watched it, which is another reason why I never watched it again. Like, it didn't bother me as much now, but it doesn't feel like the other Wallace and Gromit shorts.
No.
I think probably the thing that's just, I mean, I've only just had this realization, but I think probably the thing that causes that stark contrast is that all of the other Wallace and Gromit shorts play with kind of rubber hose cartoon physics and cartoon reality, like Feathers gets knocked off the train, flies through the air, and lands perfectly in a bottle. His entire body's smushed up in the bottle, but his head's popping out the bottleneck. In this, you actually see people get hurt when they fall over. You actually see people get injured, and obviously there's the crocodile finale. And I think that's a sharp contrast, because you imagine if, like, they did Looney Tunes cartoons where, they get running into a tunnel and get flattened like a pizza or something like that, but then, like, they actually experience pain, like proper pain, and it's weird. It feels like it's almost an episode that's grounding itself a bit more, which is bizarre to say given how surreal the actual episode itself is. But I think
then you also have the moment where he's got a bomb in his pants, and to solve this problem, they pump his pants full of raw bread dough, so that when the bomb explodes, it just bakes the dough, and somehow that shields. Even though his skin is fully exposed at the end, he's still fine.
This is Wallace and Gromit.
I know, but like in the same short, somebody gets messily devoured by a crocodile, which is a realistic thing that would happen if you fell into a crocodile pit.
The other thing, too,
I think it's the inconsistent rules.
Yeah.
You do also have, like, when Paella gets bitten.
Oh, that moment.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
Right.
Like, I forgot that completely.
Right, the fact that you actually see, like, bite marks, like
that, if this was, like, an actual realistic movie, that's a good scene. In Wallace and Gromit, I don't like it, but, like, if this was, like, a real movie and this was, like, a reveal of a character, like, how sadistic this person is, that's kind of a good scene. Like, the way she just looked at him and then bit herself. It's so dark. I don't like it in Wallace and Gromit, but in a different movie, I think that would be a great scene.
Yeah, this is the thing. And I mean, I think the point where it really properly lost me was sometime around there, and in particularly the scene where Fluffles tries to fight Paella and she just beats her.
Yeah.
Like at that point, that was where I was kind of like, whoa, okay, no, this isn't what Wallace and Gromit are supposed to be. This is supposed to be cheeky chappies having comedy adventures, and yeah, there can be a bit of peril. But
did you make that one up too? I want to know.
Cheeky chappies is a real thing. You can. Yeah. But no, at that point when it sort of became a bit harsh, that was the point where I kind of went, yeah, this isn't what I watch Wallace and Gromit for. This is just a bit uncomfortable, really. So yeah, that was kind of me. It was a bit of a turn off, honestly.
I would have thought coming into this blind that I would be the one with like, oh, I like it, but I have one or more beefs here, and now I'm surrounded by people like, yeah, no, thumbs down.
Like, that's not to say there is a lot that's good about this. Like, the whole opening sequence where they're delivering bread and doing all those bits, the idea of Wallace kind of falling in with this lady and you not necessarily knowing, what her intentions are. There is some good starting places, but there's so much of it where it just goes off into places that this shouldn't necessarily go. And I'm a fan of exploring characters and taking them outside their boxes. But this was such a... I don't know, I don't know how to describe this. And I'm probably going to come off as not making sense. But it didn't feel focused on Wallace and Gromit. It felt more focused on... I don't know. It was more ensemble cast than it was focused on Wallace and Gromit in my book. A little bit.
If they'd wanted to soften it, they could have always just had her like sabotaging businesses or something.
See, that would make
that
more
would have been
sense.
better.
Or stealing recipes like Willy Wonka or something,
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe trying to capture the real estate, so to speak. There's 12 bakers in this city, but there should only be one, and it's me. And she's sabotaging them to put them in a position to buy them out.
Something. Yeah, it could have been a lot lighter than what we're talking about with the,
You know what we needed? They should have come out with a range of Bob Baker's face bread. Like, just the imprint of his face.
I will say as well, this special did have one of my favourite moments, which is the bit where Wallace isn't paying attention to his bread deliveries. First of all, they're delivering bread like New
Oh, I know what you're going to say. Fantastic. That's also my favourite note.
The bit where he goes to throw the bread and he's not paying attention hits the old lady.
Yes! I about died. That's the best scene in this whole thing. The way 100%. She is animated flying over the fence.
Yeah.
No hitting dogs, but if you're accidentally tossing, okay.
If you're
elder
accidentally
abuse,
pasting an old lady in the face, knocking her over a fence, that's fine.
But that was more cartoony, where it's like, oh, she's going to be fine. It's not.
Yes.
It's just played for. Yeah.
I mean, I think they even dub in a little sort of Monty Python old lady moment where she goes flying over the fence. Which, yeah. Although Triv did raise a good point off recording about the amount of dialogue in this as well. I don't know, Triv, if you want to flesh that out a little bit more.
I was just going to say that, obviously as you go along, there's going to be a little bit more dialogue because your stories do become more complex. But this was so dialogue heavy. And again, I think that for me, it contributed to how long it felt. But it didn't really move. It wasn't purposeful dialogue. It was just kind of more of the fluff, kind of.
No, there's a lot of dialogue in this, like far more than there had been. Like, obviously, there's usually only the two characters, well, the first two, and then Wendeline was added for the third one. But Paella talks so much more than Wendeline does.
And it was about the amount versus the quality of it. It didn't do anything to necessarily... You could have said half of what she said. You could have cut out probably 5 minutes of dialogue with her and still gotten the exact same result.
I think part of it was they wanted to explain her motivations, because she does a full-on villain monologue towards the end, to explain what she's doing and why she's doing it. And you didn't need that with, you couldn't get that with Feathers McGraw or Preston the robot Terminator dog, because they don't talk.
I kind of feel like the way you see her like on the balloon flying in, and then you see her in real life, obviously time has passed and, modeling days for her have seemingly gone by the wayside. I
I
think
did like her line, "Curse those bakers and their loathsome confections."
with that too, you could have left it at, I had to take revenge for what they did to me and leave it at that, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
you didn't need all of the extra. And I'm not good at scripting to start with, but just it could have been tighter and
Yeah.
maintain the integrity of what it is to be a Wallace and Gromit piece.
It's that contrast, I think, from it being like, as we've said on each one of these, every single one has been a masterclass in how to do silent cinema style comedy where it's show don't tell. And this is the first one where they actually start telling more than showing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real problem because it's a bit like they're trying to work in a visual medium that isn't what they're good at. And again, as Trev says, I'm more than happy to see experimentation, but there are some things that I think should stay in the sort of test room rather than being broadcast live on Christmas. Bearing in mind, again, this is Christmas Day, so we're all sat around, half a bottle of Bucks Fizz gone. We've got more tryptophan in our systems than actual turkeys have, which is bizarre.
That is impressive.
The smell of stale sprouts and burnt Christmas pudding are wafting through the air, and I'm treated to the sight of complex feelings about Wallace's emotional balance, parodies of aliens, and Paella beating Gromit and Fluffles in some scenes. And to be fair, I probably would have been drunk enough that I wouldn't have really paid it much attention because I'd be more interested in Doctor Who coming on afterwards. But at the same time, I don't really want that on Christmas Day. I want nice, quirky comedy adventures with my pals.
Okay. A cheeky chappy is a colloquial term for a man or boy who is both cheeky and likable.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I think we can say that both John and Dan are cheeky chappies.
A couple of cheeky chappies right here.
Sarah, does that make us cheeky chapettes?
Almost certainly. Cheeky chaps and
chiquitas?
chapettes.
Or cheeky
Maybe
chicks?
Cheeky chiquitas, maybe.
Yeah, there you go. I like that. Cheeky chiquitas.
I would say one other thing to mention about A Matter of Loaf and Death is the cast. So the woman who plays Paella in this is a lady called Sally Lindsay, who is a northern darling. She's I wouldn't say she's a massive celebrity, but she is very well known in the UK because she played the bartender in a long-running soap opera in the UK called Coronation Street.
I know
yeah.
the name.
She, in that soap opera, is fantastic. And in real life, she's very bubbly and a very nice and charming personality. My personal favourite appearance she ever had was she turned up on a programme for local television in Manchester called Frank Sidebottom's Proper Telly Show in Black and White, where she was just... I'll get the link, don't worry. Where she was just bewildered for half an hour, but went along with this strange show, which really endeared me to her, honestly. Here, I think she plays what she's been asked to play really well. I just don't think it really suits Wallace and Gromit in that way. So, yeah.
I would just say that as of all the specials, this one strikes the least. It has a lot of good stuff, but if you're gonna skip one, or if you don't have time for all of them, I think you could pass this one by and you're not out anything.
Yeah.
But if you're a completionist, obviously check it out.
I will say, actually, I did forget one thing. One thing that I actually really was upset about was the fact that they didn't... They created this really nice romantic relationship between Gromit and Fluffles that I thought was really sweet. Just genuinely kind of nice. Mm-hmm. And they end the special, spoilers for anybody who hasn't watched this yet, they end the special by reuniting them, and the implication is that Wallace, Gromit and Fluffles are going to go off and have lots of many very nice adventures, and that she's going to become a regular character and it'll be a lovely turn of events. She's gone after this, doesn't turn up again, no mention of her, just vanished. Which I thought was a real shame.
Kind of like Wallace's love interests.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know, though, because the thing with Wallace's love interests is the vast majority of them, they write into the script why they're not going to turn up in the next one. So obviously Wendy, didn't like cheese. Lady Tottingham had her thing around them. It started off as a romantic thing, but I think by the end she kind of moved it into being just friends, which is fair enough. They actually kind of set it up as, yeah, she's going to be here from now on, and then the next one's just completely forgotten. Not even like I mean, it would have been nice to have had like a framed picture of her in the background of something, just so that that she's still there in a way.
Or you see her with somebody else, like she belongs to the neighbor now and comes over for treats or something.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would have even accepted, like, just in the background of one of the Vengeance Most Foul shots, just like maybe a framed picture of her and Gromit on like a cruise or something with Hawaiian shirts, or just.
I think that Wallace could have survived though without Gromit.
He probably would have invented the Gromit bot as a precursor to the Norbot.
I don't think I would have even noticed because, like I said, I didn't watch this one again after I first watched it. So watching Vengeance Most Foul, I didn't even think about it. So then I rewatched them all for the podcast, and I got to the end of this one. I was like, she's still there, but she's also gone now. So they
keep
don't
her in
really
the
end
attic
it.
now.
No.
They don't really give her a proper ending.
No, it's just a real shame because I really appreciated the time they put into setting her up and putting her up with Gromit. I liked that relationship dynamic, and I thought it could be explored further. I like the idea of Gromit having someone in his corner, because Gromit gets a really bad hand, not only in all the other specials, but particularly in this one. I liked the idea of giving Gromit some kind of support element for when things are really bad. Because he doesn't really have anyone other than Wallace, and Wallace can be his best worst enemy at some points. So yeah, I was very disappointed that they kind of set that up and then just didn't do anything with it and actually purposely kind of erased it. But then I also think, well, if what didn't particularly go down very well.
You're not complaining about Sean, though. Is that because you know where he ended up?
Yeah, well, Sean got his own really, really happy ending. He gets to go live on a nice farm, and he gets a movie every so often, and one of his friends got a spin-off show as well.
Yeah, Sean, and like where the short ended, you kind of felt like he was going to move in, but then you learn later that he moved to a farm, which is more fitting for a sheep anyway. This one kind of ended the same way with her seemingly moving in, but now we just don't know what happened to her.
Until 2028, when Fluffle's movie comes out.
That would be hilarious if Aardman just randomly drops the Fluffles movie.
Fluffles fighting crime.
That could be a good idea. Now I kind of actually want a Fluffles movie.
Well, you team Fluffles with the new police lady from
Makaji.
Yeah, perfect. That's the thing. Like, I don't even want them necessarily cohabiting, but it would just be nice to know that she's not like ended up in the Mutton-O-Matic or something.
I tell you one thing I want to learn how to do that was featured in this movie. I want to put on a flat hat, stick my thumb in my mouth, blow really hard, and have it pop up.
I feel like that's another thing that they've cribbed from Looney Tunes.
Oh, yeah. But that's a lot of stuff. I mean, how many of those gags, and they probably pulled it from something else. it's imitation is the most sincere form of flattery.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of those things where it fits in the Wallace and Gromit worlds. Like I don't mean like they've taken it from Looney Tunes in a bad way, because that does fit. It's just in a short that does not fit in Wallace and Gromit.
No.
I think we can probably call a matter of Loaf and Death done.
I vote in favour of death.
I'm in favor of Loaf. Have you seen it?
Me too.
Very comfy.
I could go for a loaf.
Okay,
some
the loaves have it.
Some cheese.
Oh,
garlic bread or garlic.
Those little rolls that you're
banana
talking
bread.
about with the
Banana bread counts.
Oh, banana bread, yeah.
Mm.
Do you ever make banana bread with chocolate chips?
Oh yeah. Chocolate chips. I've used desiccated coconut as well before now and had like a tropical bread. It's very nice.
Does sound good.
Now I kind of want to put some pineapple and coconut in a banana bread.
Yep. Yep.
That would be amazing.
You have your mission if you choose to accept it.
I'm so hungry. I'm fine. I really am fine. But...
We will be back soon with more Wallace and Gromit, but until then, do you want to let people know where they can find you if they'd like more from you? Dan?
Certainly. So you can find me on Letterboxd, YouTube, and Blue Sky. That's at tytdreviews.com. We cover cult and obscure classics in minute detail. Please drop by and say hi. We're currently on a bit of a hiatus on the YouTube front, but we are posting regularly on Letterboxd. So, don't be a stranger. Come drop by and say hi. And thanks again for having me.
And Sarah?
I'm on Redbubble with my watercolors under the name of Turnip Wilson.
And they're adorable.
Thank you. Man, appreciate that.
Woohoo!
I will try and put more on this year. Soon. Hopefully soon.
Hooray!
Thank you. You still need to give yours, don't you, Nicki?
Oh, yeah. So if you want to be a Chippy Chappy or a Chippy Chiquita, wear a flat hat, stick your finger in your mouth, and blow real hard so it pops up off your head. You can check out my YouTube channel at Trivial Theater. I do random, obscure, and straight-up bad movies.
Okay, well, we will see you soon for more Wallace and Gromit. Thanks for listening to this podcast on the Joncast Network. We'll be back soon with another episode, but in the meantime, make sure you follow my co-hosts. I'll have their links in the description, along with links to all our latest episodes, all my socials, and my Patreon, where you can find bonus and extended episodes, and get early access to most episodes, sometimes up to a week in advance. Make sure to subscribe to this show on whichever podcast platform you prefer, and follow the Joncast Network on YouTube for more podcasts covering all kinds of things beyond just what you'll find here. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you again soon.